Well, we're halfway through the 2021 ASR Supercars season, and with half of it gone, there's still half to go. And the train stopping all stations from here includes Melbourne, Sydney, New Zealand, and the final stop in Townsville. But tonight, the sixth stop on the tour is Hidden Valley Raceway in the top end, the capital of the Northern Territory in Darwin, just outside Darwin for that matter of fact. And a very close championship is brewing and continuing to simmer along really nicely in the hunt for this year's ASR Supercars title. Of course, sponsored by Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions, and what a season they have picked to put their title sponsorship to this year. And tonight, there's a little bit of a difference in the commentary box. The man who normally sits opposite me in Hans Brunswick is out, and you'll see why in just a few moments' time. But we have a notable replacement in his absence. The man who started calling these races with me back in 2019 when it was Super 2. It's a big warm welcome back to the commentary box for Benjamin Reddy Rhodes.
Thank you, Nether. It's good to be back here again. Yeah, you mentioned first and only time I've been in Supercars, and the last time was round one of the 2019 season. And boy, things have moved on since then. And no, I've been out on the grid competing over the last 2 and a bit seasons, but stepping back for the time being. And no, it's an honour to be able to step into Hans's place. And as we mentioned, he's doing much the similar thing.
He is. It's almost like a change of roles, I think. A commentator, old switcheroo, I think we could probably put it down to. We'll get to see what trade he can apply. He's actually in your car tonight, and we'll see if he can carry over some of the speed that he's seen every now and again from him in Super 2 and put it in the main game. And at the moment, just looking at practice times, he's not doing too badly out there. But I'm sure as he gets a bit more warmed up throughout the night, the times will come down. And it'd be good to see him with some good results and top 10 finish. Maybe a bit of a championship disruptor or a spanner in the works. He's got a bit of pace, old Hans Brunswick, and I'm sure he's a fast talker. Not only that, he's a very fast driver as well.
He's going to help out the team a lot with some team points this round. And yeah, obviously jumping in at his first very race this season being round 6, he's not in any chance for a title fight. But no, he has got some good pace, and hopefully he can give the sponsors some much deserved airtime, because I certainly haven't been holding up that end of the bargain so far this season.
No, I think you're probably right, and probably a good substitute choice, I think, to get him into the seat to have a little bit of a run. Not only that, it's almost like the race of substitutes tonight. There's plenty of them out there. There's, I think, 4, if memory serves me correctly, just doing the numbers in my head roughly at the moment, on top of the usual crew that are giving the wildcard appearances. And Lockie in there with the wild card tonight. And yeah, no shortage of 4 drivers filling in as substitutes for other drivers this round. So we'll have a look at those gentlemen in just a few moments' time as it all starts to fold in for the practice session. There's a driver's briefing just getting underway at the moment, which means we're only about 5 or so minutes away from having the opening qualifying session for tonight's pair of races, which gives us a really good opportunity to take a look at the one and only circuit of permanence in the top end. Here we go, thanks to Google Earth Studio, in towards the capital of the Northern Territory in Darwin. There it is there. And then just out to the southeast of the airport, on the way out towards Alice Springs, here it is, the one and only Hidden Valley Raceway. Here's your 3 sectors, Sector 1 in red, Sector 2 in yellow, Sector 3 in green. There's your details on the right-hand side there. 2.87 Ks the distance around here. We go for 35 laps tonight across a total of 2 races. So do the math, 70 laps racing all up. And some pretty nice qualifying and race lap records there, Rhodey, set last year by Kurt Stenberg. Of course, he is the author of this track we've used across the series for a number of years now, and knows it back to front compared to anybody else, and we'll be looking for a repeat of last year's performance.
Yeah, it's a great little track, and great work to obviously by Kurt in putting this together. And no, it's always introduced some really good racing this track. Turn 1, a great spot for those guys who like to get the racing started real nice and early on the lap 1 at Turn 1. Turn 1 also one of the places on the calendar which is really prominent for lazy spins. That hairpin section can cause a lot of congestion. We have seen quite a few nose to tail crashes there over the years. I think here, but also obviously with the IRL Supercars races. And that last sector is some real good fun, trying to tippy toe the car over the curbs and through the corner, and plenty of places you get spun out or just get unbalanced on the curbs. But no, and I think this is possibly one of the longest straights as well, to the drag strip running alongside to the left, and they had, I think from memory, supercars and a super bike doing some races on that drag strip. I mean, amongst everything else at the supercars race there, I think it was last weekend.
Yeah, correct. Up at the top end for supercars in real life, they had the Australian Superbike Championship going around there as well, and there was a couple of cars doing exactly what you just mentioned. So the top end, Hidden Valley, is one of the stops that's been on every supercars calendar that has occurred to date with ASR, and it's usually about this time of the year that we actually have this event. So it sort of stays roughly within that sort of 1 or 2 month bracket each and every year. Sort of in real life as well. It's a sort of the same type of calendar arrangement with supercars in real life. So it always tends to fall around the same time. So people sort of get a bit amped for it. They've been watching the supercars on TV. They want to get out there. They want to have a run, and they turn up on the circuit and away they go, which is really, really good to see. And a good field shaping up, 23 cars at the moment, a couple of absentees. We're hoping we might get 1 or 2 more in the next few moments or so before we split over into qualifying 1 for the night. Righty, we've been taking a look at the times just from practice, probably not a really true indicative of either race pace nor qualifying at pace at this rate, but there is a little bit of a logjam at the top. There's about 2 tenths separating the top 5. At one stage, it was the top 4 being separated by 9 thousandths earlier on in the practice session, and there's a lot of cars log jammed a lot further down the order, only separated by tenths and half of tenths even.
It's some really good close times, and yeah, they're not indicative. Talking to Foley, obviously my team boss, he reckons he can go quicker. We've seen from Kurt's previous times he can go quicker. I wouldn't be surprised if Rosella and Will Devonish are both sitting on quicker times. The only one I think is really setting indicative, only 1 or 2 maybe setting indicative times out there, potentially Tim Redmond. He's had pace, but he hasn't quite had race winning pace so far this season. And one of the wildcard or one of the substitute drivers in Damon Woods, who'll be driving Steve Burko's number 7 Leaf Simsport Mustang tonight. Yes,
absolutely. So I think there's probably a little bit of pace in hand from a couple of those drivers. The other one I think might be masking a little bit of pace at the moment, Kurt Stenberg. We saw he's got the track records to his name from last year. His practice time was a 1:05.5. So again, still a fair bit of pace to find, and it'll all come to a head in a few moments' time once the driver's briefing is over and the rubber hits the road, so to speak. There's, I think, some hot heads in Darwin tonight, and they'll probably have to cool their heels and just take a little bit of a backward step just to have a clear head and get clear thoughts and find a little bit of a groove, because much like Simmons Plains and Barbagallo, Rody, the qualifying session's very, very important, and track position on the racetrack during qualifying very important, especially with how the pit lane operates here.
Yeah, so track position during qualifying is one thing, and this isn't the one of the worst tracks on the calendar traditionally for needing to get your own space during qualifying. There is a decent length of track here for you to use, and we are sitting at, I think, 23 cars in the server at the moment, but you'll still be able to find your own room on track. Part of the juggle, and we've seen this in real life, and I saw this earlier in practice as well, that indicates it. Just with where pit exit feeds out here, it feeds out onto the racing line, and at the point where it feeds out, there's about 100 plus k/h speed difference between the cars coming out of the pits and the cars on the race line. Especially in qualifying, you're not going to want to pull over and give room for the car coming out. But we might also see at the other end of it, guys who are coming out with, say, 2 minutes left in the session, they have to get cracking, they have to set their last lap, won't want to give an inch either. And we might see some potentially cars, I wouldn't say come to blows, but there's definitely going to be a little bit of angst for either way. No, it's one of the things people speak about IRL, and it seems to potentially convey here as well, is that you've got to kind of, it seems one of those tracks, at least in real life, where you have to qualify up the front to finish well. It was one of the issues that I believe Shane Van Gisbergen raised at the Supercars races, that he wanted to be, he didn't qualify first, but he wanted to be first by the time he got to turn 1. Because from his point of mind, the only place he could pass was in the pits. And we will see that tonight, whether that turns out to be the case. I think historically you have had some good racing here. But talking about qualifying, we've just rolled into that session.
Yeah, you're right. So qualifying is about to get underway. It has ticked over, and I wouldn't be surprised to see everybody just roll back and have another drivers briefing, because I think there's still a few people that are gathered down in the main chat, and yes, there is. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this session just briefly postponed and roll back to start again. So we'll see how we go with that. But just on the topic of what you were mentioning then about Shane van Gisbergen, and if he didn't qualify well, he wanted to be first by the time getting to turn one, evidenced by that skinny side dive, I guess we can call it, up in the last Supercars round that took place in Darwin as well. So it was on the second row of the grid, and then pretty much scythed right down the inside, just fed the car as narrow as he could possibly make it, made the corner, and then drove away with it. So, being on the top sort of two rows at a lot of these circuits where carnage is very, very possible is definitely where you want to be, and evidenced tonight by the fact I think there's probably about a half a dozen different drivers that could occupy those top 4 spots on the grid.
And there's a few guys here that will end up qualifying in position. They're going to feel like they're not where they need to be. So looking through that list of practice times, Lewis Wedding is a pretty glaring omission, and he's not quite feeling. I don't think he's quite gelling with the car at this stage. Nathan Higginson was complaining early, but he as he popped up to a position more representative of where he'd be. But yeah, Lewis is one who's not in the position he was. We talked about hotheads earlier. He was actually in that position. He was in a long sleeve, in a hoodie, in long sleeve pants. He was looking for a shirt and shorts change halfway through practice. But we do a lot of the sessions going ahead, because I can see the pit lane is currently filling with, I think, almost every car.
Yep, nice big long lineup of supercars heading out of pit lane and onto the track. So Ben Hall's the first man out of the lane, but he's going to let a few of these other guys go past. So there goes Nathan Higginson, there goes Cam Rutledge, and off they go for the first couple of laps. Actually, it's quite a big long lash up of cars coming out of pit lane. If you go back to the other camera here, you can see there they all are continuing to feed out. Nobody wants to be stationary in the lane. Nobody wants to be sitting there and get gazumped on the run out. The only drivers I'm reading still in pit lane at the moment as the crew continues to roll through is Brendan Ross and Lewis Wedding, and I can just see that Brendan Ross is rolling down the lane, so that leaves just Lewis Wedding to find his own time to come out onto the circuit. But here we go, and Nathan Higginson, the first man to set a time in anger, will take an onboard ride with the 00 Higginson Media Engineering Team Autodesk Commodore. Let's go for a lap, Rody.
Yeah, so coming down this front straight here, I think one of the biggest breaks in supercars, so from obviously the chase, but coming down from 60 about 260k an hour down to second gear for Nathan Higginson. He's going down to just about 100 to make the day. It's probably a bit slower, but he's might be aiming to set a representative lap time. He needs to watch the exit curb, and he's managed to get over that without spinning. He has been around there a few times. Then through this last little flick here that is made a little tricky by the elevation change to the hump in that left-hander, then to the right-hander here, take a second again. Another exit curb you can spin up over, and he's managed to survive this one as well. Then the brake for the slowest point on the track, down to 60 k's an hour, doing almost road speeds there as I think somebody spun it around in the background. Then coming into this third sector, as I mentioned, great flow through here, but you've got to get the car set up right. A lot of curbs that can trip you up, and he's got through that first second pretty good. Now coming down into the last little corner, he's bowled it wide at that left hand. He's just about kept it on track, but he will have lost tenths in doing that. And now coming through the final corner, he's getting the gas nice and early, but you want to watch again, you don't fit in that rear. And he's managed to avoid the wall on the outside, and he will be setting the first representative lap time, which will be 107.5, which is not. It's a good benchmark time.
It's a good starting point. Everything's got to start somewhere. The times will come thick and fast now. So you can see here already down to 6th place, 7th place, 8th place, 9th place, falling down through the order. Luke Rosella now up into P2 with his first flying lap. Damon Woods on the substitute path. This is the man we were talking about a little while ago. He has decided to get himself a plum seat in a loose Sim Sport Ford Mustang, and pretty handy substitute. Super 2 had a really good opening pole position on debut and an opening round win on debut as well. Had a few other dramas in the second and third races in Super 2 last week. At one stage or another, he was on his roof. and then came out in GT3 the next night and smoked the field in a 90-minute race by a full minute. So straight away, the Vultures have started circling, and he's found himself aboard car 7 while Steve Burko's PC is in the workshop getting some repairs. Turmo with a bit of a spin there, good bit of heads-up driving to get out of the way, but David Wood says, nope, I am going to jump into the pit lane for this one.
And we've just seen Will Devonish drop to the top as well, actually. Just so I say that, Luke Rosella has just come to the top with a 105.002.
There we go. So getting down to business already, and these are now some of the fast times we're starting to see toward the beginning of this qualifying session. We saw earlier in the week it was Will Devonish's 105.090 was the ultimate benchmark, and look at that for a Sector 1 split, 0.00 on the Sector 1 split to Will Devonish. So up on his PB, but nothing in it at the same point in time that Rosella was at the moment a few seconds ago. And he's got the wingman ahead of him, Pete Savage, and just losing a little bit of time here, Will Devonish. And Pete does, I guess, the team thing there, gets out of the way of the team boss and the faster car. But has Will got anything in this final sector? So purple Sector 1, PB in Sector 2, despite the fact he lost a bit of time there and actually has given up the game. So obviously was not happy with that one. And the timing screen was going the wrong direction.
Just looking at the list now, no one's setting purple. Brendan Foley has just, I'm not sure he's improved, but he has just gone with a 105.1 in, which has put him in 4th. That is actually, I think only a 10th up on the time he said in practice, but he is pretty confident that he has got quicker on him, so he has still got time left in the session to find that out. He's coming back out of the lane now. He nearly had a collision with Will Devonish in the lane.
Yeah, he has too, so here they come. Brendan Foley, Will Devonish down the 40k per hour pit lane speed limit, and still got a bit of time to go. 4 minutes is plenty of time to get 2 or 3 laps in, depending on how you want to slice and dice it. And they'll feed nicely into a little bit of a clear gap in the traffic. Pete Savage will do the same, and off we go. Some good performances going on at the moment early on in this session, so this is a good result. The Kiwis again, NZ Snipes, but as we talk about him, right on cue, he just bowls it wide down there at turn 7 and then gives the gig away. Another one of the substitutes tonight, Hans Brunswick. We did talk about him being inside the top 10 with regards to the practice times, and he's found a nice little groove at the moment up to P6, and with a 10th and a little bit in hand on this lap, it'll draw him a little bit closer to Tim Redmond if he can continue to keep that clock pointing in the right direction. And if you get to the line here, it'd be a 5 on offer if you get across the line. It is to 5.5. He just lost a little bit in that last sector, so still very, very good bit of driving and plenty of opportunity still to improve. The one that sort of strikes me at the moment, and I've seen him in the server tonight so far, Rhodey, and he's not in there at the moment, is Kurt Stenberg. Yeah,
so we did mention to the group after some of the issues that we unfortunately encountered last round that we are revising the policy around the session, is that if you're not in, you're not getting in, and you're starting from the rear of the grid. And yeah, he either hasn't made the session, or he had to back out fairly early on in the session, and I haven't seen why. I'll actually go and have a look, see if anything popped up from what I can see. But no Kurt Stenberg in qualifying, so it'll be twice in 2 weeks. He's starting from the rear of grid for the first race.
Yeah, definitely not a good omen for a couple of weeks, and a bit of drama for Kurt Stenberg. Luke Rosella was purple to the first sector, to PB in Sector 2. He's already at the top of the pile, and whew, look at that. 32 thousandths of a second slower than his best flying lap, and he's still got 2 more bites at the cherry. So he's got the eyes on, definitely wants to draw away from Will Devonish, who is not troubling the timing too badly at the moment. He's within striking distance still of the pole time as it stands right now, and his own time was only down by about the same margin at the first sector split, and he goes into the 4s. So 4.968 for Will Devonish, so not qualifying lap record pace, but the first man tonight and the first man this week to break into the 104s. So good job. Now moves to the opposite side of the front row.
talking actually just about drivers that were missing. We're missing Kurt Stenberg, another driver who has popped out during this session that I've just noticed wasn't on the commentary anymore, Damon Woods. So he did set a good lap time there. Hopefully that was what he wanted. Yeah, that will be the best time we were recorded, but he's also now in the session. Also, Steve Warwick out in qualifying as well.
There's a few drivers maybe having a few gremlins, and of course the qualifying session reverting to the locked format. So guys that are not able to qualify have to wait until they get back in, and Will Devonish found nearly another 2/10 on this lap as we watch him complete the lap. There are a few drivers that have obviously had a few issues. Kurt Stenberg in the live chat, one of those at the moment, that same sort of issue it looks like as per last week, so not a good omen as you rightly called it, Rody. Can Will Devonish lower the benchmark anymore? He's already in the fours. It's a 4.821, so very, very good time for Will Devonish. Lost a touch in the last sector, but that should be comfortably enough to see him home for pole position. Luke Rosella, I reckon it's going to 25 seconds on the clock. I don't think he's going to get around for another lap, or he might just make it. Let's have a look.
He is on an out lap. He is pretty close. I think he might have just timed. It's not the driver who I thought was going to pop up. He was looking pretty close in the second timing was Pete Savage. He was looking pretty close to just maybe pipping Luke there. Luke is going to make it. He's going to get a lap, but he's the last driver out there getting a lap. So from this point, we will see final laps from drivers.
Yep, we definitely will. So he's on the move for his final lap. Likewise, Hans Brunswick on his final lap as well. He's been pushed down to 7th. NZ Snipes has moved to 1 spot further ahead of the PBF Roadies Photos Racing Commodore. And Brendan Ross is also still out there as well. So a few drivers still finishing some laps. Brenton Foley is the next one that is going to get across the line, and there's no improvement from him. He goes into pit lane. Cam Rutledge is another driver that's just finishing a lap now, and he also likewise goes to pit lane. But behind Hans Brunswick, Luke Rosella had a PB through the first sector, down at the second sector split. So it's not looking good for Luke Rosella as Brunswick does not improve. He is the only man that can take the pole position away from Will Devonish, but it will be a front row start and a good spot to see, and he gives it up.
And that's a shame because I had to lose that. I saw the first sector splits pop up. It was a purple, but I didn't quite have the pace through the second sector, and then just I think he got on the throttle a little bit too much, a little bit too early for that last corner. You just see the revs pick up, and I think he could tell pretty early that he wasn't going to get the sector was not going his way, and it's unfortunate for Luke, but still, second, still on the front row. Second is not a bad backstop for going for pole in qualifying. So still a front row start, and nice little bunch of times there actually. I think Will is pretty far away at the front, but then we've got Luke and Pete, and not far behind that is Brenton Foley.
Correct, and the other one to slot into that mix is going to be Damon Woods. So he just confirmed in the live chat that he was the time that he set would still stand. When he gets back into the server, that will sort it all out. So we'll have to just double check what time he did actually did set. It was a 105.129. So if we slot him in there, that means he slots into a net 5th place on the grid. So that will bump Redmond, Snipes, Brunswick and co. all down 1 spot. So he will be in 5th and share the 3rd row of the grid with Tim Redmond. So pretty handy time in the end, even if you had the dramas. It's good to post a time, and at least you've got something for when you come back.
Something we did miss as well, actually. Kurt did end up saying your time, so he's not starting at the back of the grid. He qualified 9th. So his best time was, I'll try that again. His best time was a 5. Or actually, no, sorry, I might be looking at the wrong screen there. I cannot confirm his stats. I'm sorry. I'm looking at best lap time, which would include qualifying times. But if he didn't say qualifying time, it would be showing his best practice time, and I think that was his best practice time.
Yeah,
so
the 105.544, correct. So the 105.544 was the practice time, so he didn't actually set a time in quali at all. So you're absolutely spot on there. So there will be a rear of grid start for Kurt Stenberg, along with a couple other drivers that had some dramas, and originally I had to jump out of that qualifying session. Well, while all that ticks along, probably a good opportunity to have a look at where everything is points-wise for the ASR 2021 Championship. And if we flick over to the driver standings, you can chalk another pole position up on the left-hand side there for Will Devonish. So that moves his tally onto 5 for the year. In fact, if you were to add them all up together, the pole tally is Devonish with 5, Savage with 3, Stenberg with 2, and Rosella, of course, getting the pole position in the first race for the last round at Barbagallo. So good job for him for that one. But Rody, very, very tight at the top. At one stage, it was, I think it was 2 rounds ago, it was 6 points. 2 rounds ago it was 9 points. The round after that it was 8 points. Now it's 6 points. So the deficit very, very slowly going in the wrong direction for Kurt Stenberg, but he's still the championship leader after the half distance mark.
Yeah, and so Luke's chipping away, but he is quite literally just chipping away. Just little bits are coming off each time. He is still far enough. There is still enough time left in the season for him to pip Kurt, but he's going to have to keep working away at that. And that's part of the problem with racing someone like Kurt. If Kurt's not first, he is still consistently doing well. He's only had one really bad race this season, which was the second race from memory at Adelaide, which he didn't finish. But otherwise, he has been there or thereabouts for season. It's why he's sitting at the top of the part now. But it's not much in it. And the other thing which surprises me, having not actually had a look at the standings too much in a while, is how big that gap is between the top two and then back to third and then back to fourth. But it's just all comes down to consistency and just finishing up there. First, I mean, talking about third, Tim Redmond's doing quite well. So if someone who was promoted from Super 2 last season to be sitting third in the Supercars points shows where his pace is at, and not only his pace in a one-lap sense, but over a race and over a season, which has ended up pushing Will Devonish, who was having a title fight last year. He's currently sitting in fourth.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always been that little bit of a logjam in the middle of the standings, looking like a round to go. I think it was Devonish and Redmond and Foley was in there as well. And Pete Savage. There was about 4 drivers separated by about 100 points. So there was a lot to play for in the championship still at that point, and still is. I mean, you look at Foley, who's having a little bit of a mid-season resurgence at the moment. He's only within 15 points of Curtis Egmanis, or AKA Turmo there, and has had a pretty good qualifying effort with fourth, so well and truly ahead of Turmo, who qualified for that 1/10. We have got the corrected order at the moment, and he has just sort of started to find that groove. He has had a few health dramas, Brenton Foley, so good to see him fit and healthy and basically doing what he loves again, getting out there and racing and just slowly starting to claw his way back into the fight. Probably for a top 5, I think he'll be targeting before the season is out. I think the race wins and are a luxury for him at this point in time, and probably not in the hunt for the title. He'd have to have a lot go his way, but definitely on for a top 5 if he continues this upward trajectory. Over to the team's points. Team's points surprisingly close between second and third at the moment. Synergy Sim Racing and Kiwi Sim Sports going toe-to-toe. And I think this is where the drafting in of substitutes is really going to show here, Rody, because Luke Rosella, obviously very reliant on Scott Nolan there. They haven't got another driver in to substitute for Nolan's car number 18 at the moment. But the Kiwi Sim Sports guys definitely have got young Braxton Stancliffe in to substitute again tonight, where Scott Stancliffe hasn't been able to make it. And then it's the same with Lou Simsport now, throwing out the call for Damon Woods, getting him into the seat because they need to draw away from CRE Motorsport.
Yeah, and this is going to be the interesting point is that CRE, if not quite there on singular driver pace with Will and obviously Pete not being quite where I think he even wants to be this season, they're always managing to just, as a pair of them, be there or thereabouts. And what helps them as well, they haven't had substitute drivers yet from memory. But they're in also a position where I think they're well reinforced with, Team Boss will have some ideas on who he might need to drop in if he needs to sub in some drivers. But it shows the fight between second and third, it especially shows this, is that, I mean, Synergy has a lot of drivers as a team. They're not just a team within ASR, they're a team off within iRacing with Brenton Hobson. There's a couple of Damons there. There's a few guys that race. I think they've got like 8 or 9 drivers who race for them in Scots. But they haven't had any other drivers aside from Brenton Hobson who have been within ASR at any point in history. I don't think another one was Damon Mulqueen. We haven't seen him for a while either.
Yeah, correct.
They don't have any drivers within our Super 2 Supercars structure. So if one of them are out, like Scott Nolan tonight, they're kind of buggered within the team's points as opposed to Kiwi Sim Sports, where if they needed to, they've got 3 main game teams now, and even then there's still extra drivers who are racing in Super 2 who are there because there is a limit on the recs, as it were, for supercars. If we had 40-car grids, I guarantee we'd see at least one other Kiwi Sim Sports team out there because they are coming out of the woodwork. So they're in a brilliant position where they haven't necessarily got the pace of Luke and Scott, but they can continue to field 2 cars each and every race, whereas Synergy Sim Racing, not so much. So we'll see how this plans out across the season, where the consistency does win out over pace. We've seen that actually in the Super 2 Drivers' Championship. The consistency is actually leading at over pace at this point in the season. People are up there that we didn't expect to be up there as broadcasters, let alone the drivers expect to be up there.
No,
But no, it'd be interesting to watch how this goes with that second and third fight, and then obviously the third and fourth fight as well, with where the recruitment stuff drops in.
Yeah, you're spot on there, and evidenced by last round at Barbagallo, where there was some really commendable performances. I think Cheese we called several times, probably one of the best mature drives we've seen in a very short time. He's been in supercars, and that just comes about from keeping your nose clean, staying out of trouble, and doing all the right things. And then you look at the other end of the scale, Cam Rutley's probably had his best result to date this year as well, with a top 10 finish for exactly the same reasons. Stayed out of the carnage, stayed out of trouble, kept his nose clean, kept his head down, and did the right thing. And that's just reward, because he's been trying for a long, long time, year on year, bettering his times. And this year it's sort of gone the wrong direction for him. So it probably was good for his confidence to get that top 10 finish from that first race at Barbagallo under his belt, and a good solid result, and justifies all the work that he's been doing. So there's a number of drivers that still continue to throw out these performances week on week on week. The quality and the competitiveness of the series year on year as this goes up and up and up. So everyone's got to keep lifting their game, but then when you try and lift your game a little bit too much, that's where the mistakes start to creep in, and that's what we're starting to see evidenced by people like Will Devenish having to continue to make up for the poor starts, having to have too many recovery drives, as it should be said, to make a big points indentation at the top end of the standings. So he's got another one of these opportunities tonight with Kurt Stenberg down the back, or starting down the back, and he's starting off the front row. So if he can make hay while the sun shines, then he's going to be in a very, very good position.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know, he's not thinking championship points, but another thing that is probably on the mind is obviously betting those team points. This will be a great opportunity for them. Just generally as well, with Will being up where he is, Pete's sitting there fourth as well, so they're obviously going to keep doing that well. But no, it's a good chance for Will, not from a season touch point of view, but it is always in a race by race thing that Kurt was the benchmark coming into this season. So if you can beat Kurt, even if it's just for one race, it's still going to be a big confidence booster.
It sure is, and we are about to go racing. So the grid is getting set and ready to go, and 24 cars are going to take the start for this one. So races 11 and 12 of the championship tonight. Of course, there's 20 races in the season across the 10 rounds being contested. We're up to round 6, so halfway already through the season and halfway already through the year, Rody. Jesus, where is the time going?
Yeah, halfway through the season. It actually is halfway through the year. It's just the way that our season is bracketed this year. It doesn't quite feel like it. But yeah, we're already through 6 months of the year, and I agree with you. I don't know where it's going.
Going like a bullet, going way, way, way too fast. It's just like this Supercars Championship. It is going before the blink of an eye. It's going, if you don't blink too often, you will miss it. And to think there's still plenty of action to come, not just with this, but also with the Enduro Cup coming up. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we've got something for you on that one, and hopefully launch it. And again, looks like we're going to have a very popular series of endurance for Supercars this year. Rody, the grid for race 11 of the Supercars Championship 2021.
Yes, so starting from pole position, as I mentioned earlier, Will Devenish for CRE Race Engineering. Good to see him up the front, and he's going to have a bit of a fight in his hands with the cars behind him. Starting from P2, which is Luke Rosella, number 55 for Synergy Sim Racing. Single car effort there tonight with no Scott Nolan. Third is Pete Savage for CRE Engineering, the second car in that team. Obviously, wanting to have a crack at a podium result would be very good for him. Just behind him in fourth is Brenton Foley, the lead driver for PBF Race Engineering. Fifth is Damon Woods, the super sub in the number 7 Loose SimSport Boost mobile car, normally driven by Steve Burker, who's out with a PC issue tonight. And Tim Redmond, first for the Kiwis, and sixth for Kiwi SimSports, the main team. Seventh is Independence Knights for the Kiwi Sims development team. Good run for the Ultimate to get it that high up the order, with Arms Brunswick in the very familiar 010 PBF Roadies Photos Racing car in 8th. Brendan Ross in 9th, third of the PBF cars, with Termo in 10th at CRA Motorsport. Lewis Wedding got himself up to 11th in qualifying in the Liston Sport 777, with Cam Rutledge, the second of the CRA Motorsport cars, in 12th. 13th is Ujit Mishra for All Australian Races. Not a bad run for him. I think he would have liked to be a bit further up, with Breakish in 14th in the second of the Kiwi Simple's undeveloped team cars, I believe. 15th is Lockie Lock, the one wildcard car in the field tonight for Kelly Grove Racing, with Braxton Stancliffe subbing for his father Scott in the second Kiwi Simple's car in 16th. Taipan in 17th, subbing for Cheese, the number 747. And good to see some good things out of him, with Lime Mitch in 18th in the number 13 Tamiya Mustang. 19th is Pete Thrower, the second of the Kiwi Sports Development Team Ultimas, with Ben Hall arriving late to start from 20th. 21st is Steve Warwick, unfortunately missed qualifying, setting a race in the lap in qualifying, with Kurt Stenberg notably down in 22nd. Lockie Burke in 23rd for Hype Sim Sport, and one driver we're missing is Nathan Higginson.
Yeah, it looks like Nathan Higginson has withdrawn from this one. Not sure what's going on there, but the lights are on, and we're about to go racing in the top end at Hidden Valley. And again, poor start. Will Devonish, he is going to get gazumped and swamped, and anything you want to call it. Going to be punted, shunted and munted if he's not careful on the run down to turn 1. It's 3 wide as he has to defend from Foley going around the outside. Then there's Damon Woods going around the outside. So dropping like a stone is Will Devonish down to 5th place. But again, Rosella with the whole shot, and he leads on the run up to turn 5.
Perfectly clean. We've got 2 cars on the background, Lime Mitch and Pete Thrower. Lime Mitch was backwards at some point there, so I'm guessing a little bit no tail. Actually, we've got a safety car.
Well, we do too. Very, very early safety cars. So big surprise there, and it might very well be for these guys that you just mentioned that were out the back. So let's have a look at this one on the Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions replay, and we have got it. Here it is, coming into the first corner, and yeah, someone outbreak there. Oh, and Stenberg was caught up in it as well, lucky to not be turned around there. And of course there was Pete Thrower and Lime Mitch, or Mitch McGovern as he's normally known, involved in that one. So an early safety car. Now this will scatter the strategy brains very, very quickly. Very early safety car, and it's definitely not the time to stop, but it does nullify the field and just settles it down for a bit. So we did say hot heads will have to cool their heels in the high heat and humidity of the capital of the Northern Territory, and very, very early coming together. And I think Pete Thrower knew he was in the wrong there, just missed the braking point just a little bit, didn't read the situation ultimately, and Lime Mitch with a bit of damage, and understandably so, will have to come into pit lane to get that fixed. So benefit the safety car, you don't have to worry so much about all that. And Kurt Stenberg in as well, so a bit of damage repair probably for him as well. New set of boots, top it off with fuel. Probably not a bad strategy ploy, I think, from Kurt Stenberg, being down the back of the grid. Fresh set of tyres, a bit more fuel means he can go a lap or 2 longer now on the strategy play, so it means it'll give him some fresher tyres towards the end of the race, and he'll comfortably catch the back of the safety car train, so it's not a huge problem for him, and he can just afford to go along at normal pace here. He doesn't have to blow the doors off the car to catch the back of the snake, because they're still going to do it probably about another 2 laps under the ASR Camaro safety car.
Yeah, just looking at that safety car train and just seeing already some of the winners and losers, as we see in the middle of the train check up for whatever reason, people are going to go to each other. The big winner from that initial first lap was Lewis Wedding. He's already sitting in 8th position, just up behind NZ Snipe. The big loser, and we obviously were watching it from the start with Will Devonish, he's down 4 spots from his starting position of first, with all those drivers who were behind him now shuffled up 1 apiece. And look, it does help Will, and it doesn't help Will, because he wasn't. It's not like he was ages away from the top 4 as it was anyway. So he doesn't have to regain all the big person that does help the safety car coming out is those guys who were caught up in the first incident, notably Kurt Stenberg, because he had the chance to repair the damage, and I imagine he might have got a bit of steering damage with the way that he was collected by Lime Mitch, who got snookered by one of the cars behind him. But it does also, let him get trained, and if he's got a second strategy in mind, which he might have, I don't know, even splitting fresh tyres to open up the strategy window a little bit, because this will need at least one stop for tyres. It does give him the flexibility now with his stock and where he wants to put it, and relative to those around him. So it gives Kurt a good chance to come to the field, and for those guys who started well, it nullifies that good start. Obviously, Lewis has got himself up a few spots, and he can race where he's positioned at the moment as long as he's got the pace. If not, he can put the elbows out, and he's qualified to do that. But yeah, for Mitch and Pete, Bowl as well, good start, and Damon, they've essentially got to build that gap over Will again. So we'll see whether that pace and them getting past Will is actually indicative of where they can be on track, or whether he's going to start clawing back through at least some of those drivers as we get out of the safety car.
Yeah, correct. And outside of Lion Mitch, who was the big loser in all of that with the contact from Peter Thrower, the losing 5 spots, the other one that is the big loser out of that one we talked about, Will Devonish, the fall from pole position yet again. It's becoming an issue, and he's got to get it rectified, and he's fallen down the order to 5th. But it's all been put to rest now because it's a single file restart with Luke Rosella at the head of the queue. There he is. Pete Savage right up his chuff, and as they get to the line, it was the leader's prerogative to go when he wanted to go, and away we go again. So back under green, and already a bit of tyre warming that needs to happen here on the run through to turn 1, and first 3 as they were, first 5 or 6 as they were actually. So nice, comfortable, sensible restart as the race gets underway, and they head up towards this fantastic part of the circuit, up through turn 4, and then braking for turn 5. And where's Kurt Stenberg in all of this? Here he is, tucked in behind Lockie Burke as they head up towards turn 5.
Yeah, so he's got a long way to come back through the field. He has got plenty of laps to do it in. He's obviously just got past Lockie Burke, and he's got a gap to the next car, which is the normally cheese-driven car of Taipan, as Lockie Burke loops it in the background.
He does indeed.
Which will bring out a local yellow for those cars. Yeah, it'll be interesting to just keep tabs across the next 20 minutes or so on how Kurt progresses through the field.
Speaking of progress through the field, Damon Woods putting a move there on Brent Foley's in the wall. There's a major accident at the final corner. Now, they was a bit worried that we saw one of these happen in Super 2 there. Foley very, very wide, and that's caught Will Devonish. So Devonish again paying the penalty for a poor start, caught out in a major incident again. Same thing that happened, not of his own doing, in Barbagallo. And a replay definitely worthwhile of that one. It was all happening. So Foley was very firmly passed there by Woods, and just a little bit wide, and just picked the accelerator up way too aggressively, spears back across the track, takes out Will Devonish. Devonish is no doubt going to have a very, very big amount of damage. And then Foley had to wait for that gap in the traffic to fire across track and safely into pit lane.
And there's no winners in that because they both got damage. I think for Will, he feels like he might be able to continue that, so he is now down in 20th. So I think that damage is pretty severe. Yeah,
big damage on that car. It's smoking. He's got another puncture again. I think it'll be a front right puncture, which means it won't want to turn through this sector here. And this championship tilt is fast becoming a championship disaster for the man who finished second last year and was leading the championship at one point, and now has got, I don't know, 2 incidents now, not his doing. Needed to race a little bit better through some of the other incidents, needed it to go really well, and yeah, limping around the final corner. And
speaking of incidents, there it goes. I was just watching Tim Redmond. He put a very ambitious move down the inside of Lewis Wedding, not unlike the Shane Menges big move we were talking about earlier. Just got away with it, but they got contact. They both had to slow down, which gave Hans Brunswick a great run up the inside, and then just looped it on the curb on the exit as well, and right across the front of about 3 other cars. It's all a little messy.
On. Yeah, it's getting messy now, and again, another replay ensuing for this one as they going to negotiate here. Yeah, now we can see, we just rewind it back a little bit here. We just pick it up. Redmond was well off the line, and these two have come together again. The door was left ajar, I think, there. And yeah, it's getting a little bit messy, and then Turmo was in behind there as well, and he got into the back of Redmond and turned him around. So that was all happening in the back of shot as well. So the stewards, I think, are going to be very, very busy after this one is over.
The only driver that's winning from this, and we said we'd look in a long period of time, a very short period of time, Kurt Stenberg already in 9th because of everything that's happening around him and him not being in it.
Yeah, correct. So he has got the eyes on here, and down the inside of Lewis Wedding there he goes very quickly up to 8th place. So this is working out well for him. The man he wanted to beat in the championship over, I wouldn't say out of commission, but in a world of hurt at the moment. Brett Foley, who had a really good result in a world of hurt at the moment. Luke Rosella blazing along out in front and trying his best to gap the field and have some sort of cushion pick up and try and pick up another victory for the year. And behind them, the battle for second and third is probably where the most interesting one is at the minute. The substitute Damon Woods applying the blowtorch to the back of the sole remaining CRE race engineering car that's of any real significance at the minute in Pete Savage.
Yeah, and I can see Dane Liccardo in chat, current Super 2 driver for ASR. He'll know all about what it's like having the Damon Woods blowtorch up your backside around Hidden Valleys. He's had a cracking race here last week. But no, he's got some brilliant pace on board, Damon. He runs in real life as well. He's a previous carter. He's now running Victorian Formula Ford, and from all accounts, he's doing pretty well. They're one of a few guys that's popped up in the last little while. Xavier Kokar running Super 2, also a carter and a Victorian Formula Ford driver. But you know, applying that pace I was a little bit concerned on the face of it how the open wheel experience would transfer across to even virtual touring cars, because you can't run side by side in a Formula car without turning it into a canoe, but you can bump panels in a supercar. And I'm not sure whether his natural intuition would get in the way and say, no, I can't get this close because I'm going to shear a wheel off. But no, he seems to be right up the backside of Pete Savage at the moment. And I'm pretty confident if he gets to a position where he can send an inside, he's going to have a go.
Well, here we go. It's the next opportunity coming down turn one, and he's just drawing closer and closer and closer, and he thinks about the move and looks like it's coming, and second place could be about to change hands, and Savage sees it coming, sidesteps the argument, and very, very solid pass by Damon Woods at turn one. Textbook pass, I guess we call that, here at Hidden Valley. Another one that's profiteered a little bit from this is Hans Brunswick. So the Encyclopedia of Supercars, we call him. Again, keeping his nose clean, has avoided the carnage so far, has moved his way up to 4th place, and good results so far in the early going as we approach the 1/3 distance mark of this one. And Stenberger's moved his way up to 7th, and there is a bit of an angry pack, I guess, forming here. Here we go, have a look at this, Rody. We've got Steve Warwick in here, Taipan in here, Termo recovering after the contact with Redmond. You've got Freakishers in there as well, and behind them we've got Lime Mitch as Steve Warwick exits stage left, and this field, little battle group continues on.
It is a nice little battle pack. It is now only 4 cars, but they are very nicely packed together. Obviously, Termo recovering, Taipan doing so far an excellent job subbing for Cheese. We've got Freakish there in the sister car, and we've got Lime Mitch around in the background. It's a bit too much curb coming into the second last corner.
And there
he's
goes.
Now on the outside of the circuit. So that's now a 3-car battle pack. It's it's shedding as we're watching it. But Termo got a good run here on Taipan. Looks like he's going to make a move down inside of turn 1.
Yep. Very solid move happening here. Looks like Termo is about to get the job done on Taipan, and that's very firm, very clean down there. A little bit wide on the exit. Taipan's going to resend it on the over and under treatment, and a little bit of panel exchange there on the run out of turn 1 and up through 2, 3 and 4, but it looks like now Termo has just settled the argument and said, nope, I'll check in here because there's a yellow flag in the area, and that looks like it was NZ Snipes, I think, that was touring the infield there very briefly. Yes, it was.
Yeah, so Mr. Owen the Snipes, I'm guessing possibly a little wobbly off the curb through that right-hander, but no harm, no foul for him. Possibly a spot or 2 lost in the grand scheme of things, but otherwise doing pretty well. But now that battle pack continues on, and Termo, I think, under pressure at the moment from, actually no, has got past Taipan, finally. So his next target is Tim Redmond. He's 3 seconds off the road.
Yeah, he's finally got that move done, Termo, so it didn't take too long for him to find an opportunity to get back past. The other one that we need to talk about too, when it comes to Kiwi Sim Sports at the moment, that flag is being flown by this young man, the 13-year-old in Braxton Stancliffe. He's taken over the mantle of lead driver in this race for the moment, for Tim Redmond's demise. And another one of the competitors coming up from Super 2, filling in second week in a row, or second round in a row rather, in this car. And the father and son pairing in the main game will have to wait just a little bit longer. Maybe it'll wait till Calder Park. I am waiting to see what the retro round liveries are that the Kiwi guys produce, and Scotty assures me that they've got something good for us. I've seen the underdeveloped team, and I've seen the development team, Nissan Ultimas. I know what's coming with that, but I've been joking with Tim Redmond about I want to see a super black livery or something like that, but he assures me it's not going to be the super blacks, it's going to be something else. But we'll look forward to see what happens there in a couple of weeks' time. So actually got a little preview of some more liveries coming up in between race 1 and race 2, which I'm sure a few people's eyes will pop out of their heads comprehensively when they see what some of the liveries are that are coming out of the Daniel Cox Design Studio.
Yeah, I was sneak peek of those earlier, and Coxie's been doing, as he has started the season with the main game liveries, he's been doing, I think it's fair to say, God's work. He's done some really good jobs with his liveries, and there's some really cool stuff, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone. You've got to see some of the stuff he's come up with, and we'll show you later in the broadcast.
Yeah, that's why he's got the Daniel Cox Designs boards out in a couple of spots around this circuit. While we've run the ad a few times as well, because he's probably one of the best designers, I think, for liveries that we've got in the community, and there's plenty of them that can put a livery together. So, yeah, wait and see what happens there. Now, progress on Will Devonish after his stop. He is back out there, 21st place. He is the first car and only car 1 lap down. We have lost Brent Foley from this one. Ben Hall is also out after a couple of laps, so they were out within a lap or two of each other. And Brent Foley very, very, I guess, remorseful, and feels really, really bad for what happened to Will, who was the innocent victim in that one. But the important thing is you've got to keep going. You've got to get points. You've got to put points on the board, because it doesn't matter what happens. You've got to get going. And first of the early stoppers there in Lockie Burke. So this is a little bit early from what I would have expected. We're looking at the Super 2 lap counts were around 17 to 18 laps for a full race distance. The drivers were able to make the tyres last there. So this is essentially a 2-stop strategy unless he wants to go onto the hard tyre.
Yeah. This is about the point that we saw drivers pitting in Super 2 actually. And it was, and Berkey was actually not there for it, so I'm not sure whether it would be just coincidence that he stopped about this point. But this was about the time they were stopping in. Those who did stop stopping in Super 2, it was only a 16-lap race from memory. But a couple of them did try a late stop to get some fresh tyres and try and get a run out of it. Oh, sorry, it was an 18-lap race. It didn't quite work out for Chomo and Braxton Stankley, the two guys. I remember doing it. They recovered, but not nearly enough to justify stopping. Yeah.
Sorry, Roddy, to cut you off there. Stenz Snipes had just got the pass done on Braxton Stancliffe, and then he went and bowled it wide down there in turn 1 and gave the spot straight back, and he might even give Tim Redmond another position as well, and he does. So that's a costly mistake for NZ Snipes. That's a couple times in the last few laps he's bowled it wide. The other one, of course, was down here at the hairpin, which we caught off camera, and then had to rejoin. So all the hard work again done. Oh, and Braxton's done exactly the same thing. He's just gone deep at the corner, gifts the place straight back, and it's no, after you. No, I believe after you, sir. So it's everybody just, in this little mid-pack, just swapping positions, hand over fist, giving a little bit of a free kick to everybody, and then once the free kick is done, it's like, oh, we'll just give the free kick back the other way. I just kicked an own goal here.
Yeah, they're a friendly bunch generally, the Kiwis, and obviously they do tend to sit in their own little group when they're racing. I hope that Tim Redmond is now effectively the lead driver in the team, just based on experience, not only of the Kiwi Simsports main team, but of all 3 of the Kiwi teams. He is, telling, he's communicating to the Braxton, oh, I've run it wide here, cool, so I don't run to the back of you. And with Snipes, if you're gonna have a go at me, Kane, make sure you know what you're doing. I don't want you to fire the both of us off the track, because running into a car is never a good thing, but running into a teammate...
Oh, there's been spilt. Yep, there he goes. He's had a big moment there, and these tyre barriers are solid, and he's just pulled it up before he gets to the solid barriers. So took a ride on the wild side, did the driver of car 718, and it's worthy of a Smith & Sons replay, because that one was a big wild ride for the young 13-year-old. Have a look at this. So I thought for a minute he'd been spilt, because I was looking at the other screen to see what was happening, but he's had a problem here on the right to left transition. Got the curb. That's what's unsettled the car. Got the curb at 4. and that's just pitched the car. As soon as he went for the brakes, that's just put the car into a tailspin, and off he went into the boonies at turn number 5. So, bit of a shame. He's going to have to do a fair bit of work. Then he's actually dropped in behind the car of Freakish, and I think he's actually, has he got a little bit of damage here? He's got a bit of puncture.
Damage or a puncture. This was about the point people were maybe a bit later than this, but this is about the point people started to pick up punctures in Super 2, and these guys are pushing in maybe a little harder than they were in Super 2. So, yeah, that looked like it might have been a puncture. We didn't see. Well, he did clip the fence on the left-hand side of the car, but he looks like he was struggling to turn right after he left. So that would indicate a right front puncture, and that's a shame for Braxton. Yeah,
it could have been a bad flat split or something, and it could have just let go at that critical moment after he did have that slide. So it depends on how hard he was working the tyre. This is going to be a nice little battle. This is one thing I've been looking at the last couple of laps, just to see Stenberg closing into the back of Hans Brunswick. This is for 4th and 5th place. Brunswick's not going to make this easy by any stretch of the imagination. He won't make it overtly difficult either. Stenberg will definitely have the advantage in terms of the track knowledge and the ultimate pace, but Hans will be making that car as wide as he possibly can and making Stenny earn every dollar of this pass.
The other interesting thing with this pass as well is that these two cars do, as Kurt's gone for the move there, I think he's got it pretty comfortably done. He's still up to defend here into the hairpin, and Hans looking big picture. I don't think he's gone for a dive there. The other thing, as Kurt indicated, he looks like he's going to pit soon. These two cars share a pit bay.
They do.
So it is the race to not be balked in the pit lane between these two cars at the moment.
Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you actually brought that up, because you're right, the single car teams, and that's a moment for Stenberg. He just caught the curb at the wrong angle, and just good car control to save it. But he would have had eyes the size of dinner plates for a second there, and Hans has had the same thing on the opposite. And here we go, Stenberg in. So that nullifies that little drama. Gets to lap 17. So this is essentially close enough to half distance for him to get in and stop. So he hasn't gone that little bit longer. But the only thing I could say is he probably bought himself a bit of an insurance policy there, stopping earlier under safety car to make sure he didn't have a puncture like everybody else.
I think he has, and Hans, if not a puncture, he's pretty close in his tyres. He had a big wobble under braking into turn 1, and he's looking a little sketchy now. He's obviously going the slightly further and a half distance, go for a stop. He didn't run Super 2 last week, so he hasn't got the seat time to know what this guy's going to do at the back end of the stint, although I believe Nathan Higginson will be in the chat there as well. He's not running in this stint, but he did race last week, so he will be probably applying some insight to the guys in the general chat. But no, Hans, I think, indicating to pit this lap in, and it'll be interesting to see whether the overcut works out.
Race leader in. So Luke Rosell, I was about to say that was my next question, is how does the race leader play the strategy? And he's in, so he's covering off Stenberg. So too does Damon Woods. Pete Savage goes again, so he's feeling a bit game. Hans Brunswick is in. You called that one perfectly fine. So top 3 of the top 4 in, and Pete Savage keeps going. What about the guys that are a bit further down the field? So Lockie Lock, Lewis Wedding, Termo, they're all sort of coming into pit stop window as well. Are they going to come in for a stop? Lockie Lock looks like he is, he does. And I think just drag the brake there a little bit. It's a good signal just to show the guys behind, hey, I'm slowing down because I need to come in for a stop. And he's done that. So seems like lap 18 is the favoured lap of choice for about half the field so far. The pit lane quite busy, but all the cars that are sharing pit booms not having to worry too much about it at the moment. They're all sort of split up. Pete Savage hasn't really got anything to worry about though, because Will Devonish is on a completely contra strategy, having been involved in that accident with Brenton Foley.
Yeah, I think the only issue we saw in the pits was very near the collision between. Oh, hang on! I've just seen one of the All Australian cars go spinning around the hairpin. It was Ujit Mishra.
It's a Mishra. I think I was about to say Mishra was probably a dark horse for me in this one, because he had a pretty strong practice session, and he has gone around at the hairpin. Yeah, he's actually down the running order in 19th.
He might, no, I think so. I think his tyre went.
Yep, there you go. And I think that evidence is there. So it's just gone now. Oh, and there's Lockie Burke's gone spearing off at the same corner at Mishra, just tiptoed around as well. So there is a bit of wear tear going on here. And I don't know if Mishra knows he's got a puncture or not. The car seems like it's going about normal pace. Maybe it was just a mistake and overheated a tyre or something. So off he goes.
And so, I mean, the other option as well, which we haven't considered, but from memory, it is available to drivers. The hard tyre does exist. Drivers were using softs in Super 2 because they could make them last the distance. Some of these guys have started off pace, and Uj is one of them who I expect to be a little bit further up, and obviously, as you call a bit of a dark horse, he could be out there on the hards.
Possibly. You're possibly right there. What I have noticed, though, is there has been a bit of a shake-up to this order, so I'm looking for where Damon Woods is. He's actually DNF'd out of this race, so I'm not sure what's happened there. The pit stops have gone all right. I was wondering why Pete Savage came out behind Luke Rosella in all of this, and it's because Damon Woods for Loose Sim Sport is out. So a drama in the pit stop somewhere. I'm wondering if the pit stop sequence didn't activate properly for him, so that's big points gone begging for Damon Woods. It will give, of course, some extra points to Will Devonish because he will get through and pick up an extra couple of spots for that one. Still going to be a lap down, though.
I just went back and had a look. He made it to the pit stop fine. He was just coming through the right-hander after the hairpin, and his car's just run wide and then disappeared. So he mentioned having issues with force feedback
game crash,
qualifying.
Game
and
crash.
There it is, another game crash for him.
Yeah, in a live chat. So I think some of those guys are going to have to turn their graphic settings down a little bit for the next race. Nathan Higginson, same sort of thing as well. So they're going to have to turn their graphic settings down and come back in, and it might look rather pedestrian with all the issues going on. But that's what he's got to do. The only man yet to stop this field to be cleansed is Turmo, and he's been out there and led a lap. So Cam Rutledge led a lap. He's come in and stopped. He's fed back out in what's currently 7th place, which again is a pretty good result for him. Turmo now the only man yet to stop. That will cleanse the entire field, and then we'll have the running order. It'll be back to Rosella, Savage, Stenberg in 3rd. Brunswick and Brendan Ross would be your top 5. Now, I'm not sure it's Brendan Ross. Oh, and Turmo's around. And another spin further ahead as well. So,
that's another safety car.
And it is too. Oh, so this
what does this do for Turmo? Because he was okay. So he can get into the lane. Will's in the lane as well.
They are. They caught that on the camera right there, so you could see precisely what was going on the front straight. So another safety car, and it's come out and it's picked up the leader. Luckily, it's picked up the leader at the right time, so they didn't have to go around a whole entire lap. The leaders were actually coming up on the start-finish line as the safety car was called. They were actually basically coming around the corner as Turmo was having the spin. So the safety car was able to be deployed very, very quickly. This is going to scramble the order. There's going to be lap traffic involved in this one, and this is a massive free kick. Luke Rosella would not have wanted to see this safety car because right behind them now, Pete Savage and Kurt Stenberg, the two West Australians, are going to have a clear shot at the restart at this 55 Mustang for the better part of 10 laps.
And this is going to be it's going to be a little longer than what we can see as a traditional sort of sprint finish after a safety car, but it's still going to be in the range of it. And these three all represent sort of opposing teams within the championship. They've all got a sort of opposing ethos. They've all got various feelings for each other, and I think it's just, as it is fair to say, there is a bit of a competitive spirit going on amongst there. But this is going to be interesting. Then we look back from there. There is Hans Brunswick, who, as we mentioned, he's coming in for at least just this round at this stage. He's got no bearing on the championship as a whole, so he's got nothing to lose, as opposed to the 3 cars in front of him. And then Brendan Ross, now the lead PBF main driver in 5th.
So Peter Thrower lapping himself there as well, but you're right. There's a lot that's changed in this order as well. Brendan Ross is probably one of the drivers that's moved up the order quite handsomely. He's moved up from his 9th place start to 5th place finish. Look behind him, so you've got Cam Rutledge is in there, probably one of the best results he's had as well. Good progression through the field again, ahead of Tim Redmond, who had that incident a bit earlier, so this is a free kick for him as well in the recovery effort. Lockie Lock, good result from wildcard Lockie Lock at the moment. Lewis Weddington 9th, NZ Snipes to 10th, and Turmo's fed back in after the pit stop in 11th. So it's not all bad news for Turmo. He's only one spot down on where he qualified overall, but with much, much fresher boots than everybody else ahead of him.
So this is actually, I know he probably didn't plan it this way. What he did, he didn't. This is almost the exact same strategy he was playing in Super 2. The advantage is all the cars he has to pass are now right there in front of him, rather than being 3/4 of a lap ahead. So the leader, rather than being 30 seconds down the road, the leader is 4 seconds down the road, and he's not got the pace. Like he's going to do well in this with his fresh tyres. He's not got the pace he had in Super 2 to be challenging for a win or a podium, I don't think. That said, the way these guys in front race, anything could happen. But he's now got a good position to have a stake at a top 10 and possibly try and swing for a top 5, because he is going to be on fresher boots than every other car around him, and by a fairly notable amount. I think the only other driver out there on really fresh tyres is his teammate Cam Rutledge.
Yeah, correct. And Cam only stopped about a lap or two earlier than him. So those two gentlemen have the freshest tyres out of everybody in the field. Cam in 6th, Turmo in 11th. Now we're going to get the safety car coming in. No, we're going for another lap. So at least a couple more to go. So if you're at the back of the field here, who are the last cars that are in the field? So we've got the 3 DNFs. You've got Lockley Burke and Will Devonish are the 2 cars 1 lap down. So there's Lockie Burke on screen there. He's in the back of the queue. So he's got Braxton Stanley behind and Steve Warwick ahead. So those guys are a lap ahead at the moment, being told to follow it. Will Devonish is in behind his teammate Turmo. We saw him just a few seconds ago. So he'll be subject to the blue flags from Freakish behind and all the guys that are there as well. And then the next man in 18th place is Ujit Mishra. Now he's going to catch the back of the trains. He needed to get in and stop as well. And he's got a lot of work to do to pass a number of these cars very, very quickly at the restart. He's got the lap traffic to get through. He's then got to get very quickly onto the tail of Peter Thrower. Well, he's not going to do it by doing that, though. That's a bit silly going like that under safety car condition.
I think if I was Ujit at this point, especially if he's doing what I suspected he was doing and he was running on the hards, I would have gone in. He's going to have to stop either way anyway for fuel. But if I was him, I would have gone and got some soft tyres. He is a bit further back than Turmo's position, but this is a good chance for him to try and claw some positions that he might not otherwise have had. If this had been a non-safety car race, at least for the second one, he would have been in a better position, because he would have been out there on the hards. He would have been finding guys on the softs, but he would have position over those guys and he could defend. Now, and I'm not sure whether he pitted or what happened, would have been 18th. He is now right up the back of his teammate, Lime Mitch, in 17th. If he's out there and he was on hards, I hope he switched to softs and can make the best use of them that he can in his last 10 or so laps.
We're going to get one more lap under safety car here as well. So another one ticked off. So it's going to be essentially a 10-lap sprint with who has the best tyres. That's what it's all going to be about when we get there. And there's the big long lash up heading down the front straight now. Who just came in for a stop? No, that was Lime Mitch. You're right. So Lime Mitch has decided, you know what? I'm only going to lose a couple of spots here. I'm going to come in. I'm going to put on a set of soft boots. There he goes, up on the jacks. Nothing to lose here. You may as well have a late lunch, have a dip, as they call it. And
yeah, I mean, he's only lost one spot there to his teammate Ujit, and I'm not sure whether they're sitting in the Discord together, but I imagine if there is an instance at the end of the race where one of them has an indicative pace, they can go, Lewis, this is Bono. You mind moving over for me? No, it's. I hope, amongst other things, that that is the strategy. If Ujit hasn't taken it, if Mitch has, because Mitch does have raw pace, not quite the same as we're used to seeing in previous seasons. There is a lot more. Is a lot more top weighted this season than it has been previously. And Mitch, unfortunately, probably hasn't had the seat time he wanted and has sort of slipped through the pecking order a little bit. But Mitch does still have good raw pace. He's still got good confidence in that car. So it'll be interesting to see if the car's at a stage for him, and if he's at a stage now where he can crack on in his last 10 or so laps and make a big fistful of it.
Yeah, you're right. He's doing year 12, I think, this year probably has a lot to do with that, and I can't say I blame him. It'll be one of those things that you've just got to find the best way to do it and get the job done when you can. So safety car will be a late peel in. Here we go. It is in. There's the view out of the rear camera of Luke Rosella's Ford Mustang. There's Pete Savage menacingly touring up behind him as we get ready to go back to green flag racing, and Kurt Stenberg's right in there as well. And here we go, a little bit of a nudge. You got a nudge on the run down there. Here we go. They're all going to start to look left and right and try to fan out. We're going to get probably 2-3 wide on the run to turn one. Rosella's got the whole shot and the track position, and he hangs on to position one for the moment. But Stenberg is through on Pete Savage, and Brunswick's going with him.
Yeah, so Hans was a good spot there. He had a good run. The top three kind of bottled a bit off that restart. So He had a good finish on Slipster. He has stepped back though. He is going to give Pete a gap, and actually, I think his biggest problem right now is potentially Brendan Ross behind him. But no, Kurt all over the back of the 55 right now.
Yep, you're not wrong. So he's all over like a cheap suit. And it's going to be a big mess. Oh, and there's carnage at the back as well. There's cars around, Lewis Wedding's around. There's a lot of stuff going on back here. There's all sorts of things. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another safety car, but no, it looks like it's just a localised yellow. Somebody ran into somebody else down there, and I'm not sure if we're going to have time to cut to a replay here. Probably not, because there's possibly going to be a move on down at turn 1. We might look at it on a localised replay and just see what happened while we keep an eye on things. And yeah, it looks like NZ Snipes got into Lewis Wedding, then tried to check up to give him a spot back, and it scattered the field. So, and then I think one of the then the two AAR cars got together with I think it was Lime Mitch or Hujja Mishra, one of the two, getting into contact with the other. So that takes both the AAR Mustangs out of commission, and then there's another Mustang that's having to play a massive defensive game at the moment. Look at the lines he's having to take. He's having to drive it straight down the middle on the approach to 5, and this is going to be an absolute fist fight to the end at the moment.
Yeah, and Pete's still around. He's in a position where if either of these two get a bit too scrappy in front, he can make a position. He's not quite there or thereabouts. That's it. He is doing a good job, but Hans is actually looking a bit more decisive and a bit more tactical on this lap. Tim Redmond, I think Rossi actually got past Tim Redmond off that restart, but Tim Redmond's back through now. And a bit of a wiggle there for Kurt out of the last one. That won't help his straight line pace. So he has two of that slipstream, so he's going to make that back up. And he's still going to be in a position to definitely keep Luke busy on the way down to turn 1.
So he's a bit too far back to have a late lunge at this one here, but he is really applying the screws here. Different lines again. Rosella looking for the double apex. Stenberg with the much tighter line through that part of the course. And I don't know how to call this one, Ruddy. This could go either way. Rosella has to basically make the Mustang as wide as he possibly can. As I said, he definitely wouldn't want to see that safety car come out. He probably might want to see it come out with a couple of laps to go. We might actually finish close to, actually we'll go to a green-white checker if it actually did happen.
A green-white checker might work for him, might not. I think he wouldn't have minded being in this position with 2 laps to go, not with 10. He is doing the big juggle right now, trying to both keep an eye on where he is on track, keep an eye on where Kurt is on track, and make his driving something that works for both. He is parking on as many apexes as he can to just not give Kurt any opportunities.
Got to defend now. Stenberg's too close. He'll have to cover the inside, which he does. So he listens to the advice that the commentator gives, and he covers the inside. He's going to force him to go the long way. Brunswick was trying to pull the same trick on Pete Savage behind. And for Rosella, now we can just open the steering just a little bit. He can hold Stenberg high and wide, and that's a really good defensive hold from Rosella. That's really well done. But he's going to have to do it now at 5. He's got to do the same thing, drive it straight down the middle if Stenberg's close enough, but he got away with that one, and Stenny will bide his time yet again. It looks like he favours turn 1 at the moment, but he's giving Rosella all the looks at all the passing points at the circuit right now, making him really earn this victory.
And we've got a great duality here. Kurt, obviously creator of the track, he knows it better than anyone else, should know this place. Luke, in the same team as Scott Nolan, who is one of the drivers out there who you absolutely do not want to be stuck behind if you're trying to pass him, because he will learn what's behind him, he will adapt, and he will make it impossible for you to make a pass. And if Nolan's not racing out, I would hope he's in Luke's ear at the moment, telling him, just giving him advice on where to park it, obviously every apex, but he needs to be parking that bus every opportunity he gets to have a chance. He's pulled across the inside now to try and defend again. It works for him last lap. He's obviously confident trying to cover off. I'm guessing Kurt might be going for an overrun. He has moved him a little wide, and there's a bit of squeezing.
Yeah, a little bit of a nudge there. So it was the second verse, same as the first. He tried to cover the line, which he did. But the problem is because he takes that double apex move, he leaves the door open just for a little second like he's just done there. And the door shut very, very late. So all the looks are coming. Here comes the third look in as many corners. And a little bit of a lock break for Stenberg, but around the outside. Can he wrap around the outside at 7? Oh, door banging, handle mashing, and Rosella prevails for a few seconds more. So all the little bit of respite that he needs just for a few seconds just to get back to the main straight. And this is starting to bring Pete Savage back into this as well. He's actually broken free of Brunswick, who's starting to drift back towards Tim Redmond. But this is on. The gloves are off. 5 more laps to go. Can the 55 hang on?
So last lap, they were near identical lap times with the top two, 7.124 or 7.123 between the top two cars. There is nothing in it with these guys, and you know, Kurt already was past a couple of seconds there. He knows he can get past. Luke knows that he can get past, and it's no longer a question of if, it's a when, and it's Luke's job to make sure that when is not in the next 4 laps.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, we're not giving much of a nod to the guys a bit further down the field that are having a humdinger of a battle at the moment, but this is where it's at right now. We're probably going to have to stay with this one toward the end of the race at this stage. There's plenty of action going on down the field, and here we go again, rubbing door panels on the run through turn 7. And Stenberg has the high ground this time. He's on the inside. He's firmly there. He'll have to give a little bit of space on the outside to Rosella. And then he's going to have the high ground for the run down the inside at the final corner at 14. If they don't get a repeat here, leaves a bit of space. And now it's a drag to turn 1.
And there's rubbing too. The inside of the doors. Stenberg has just got the run. They come off pretty identical. I think he's just maybe got slightly better shifts down the straight, but he's on the inside, so he has got the brakes a little bit earlier. He has then also still got room, and he's just driving it gently into his rear corner panel. A bit of a slide there mid-corner. And Pete's he's definitely getting a little closer. And actually in the background we've noticed as well, Tim Redmond has got past Hans Brunswick before.
Yeah, he has nailed it now. Pete Savage got a front row seat to the action going on here. Look at this. There's probably some of the best racing we've seen all season long. Door handle to door handle between the top 2 protagonists in the ASR Championship. Stenberg now with the inside line. Now the move might be done and dusted. I think it might be over and done with, and it looks like he's finally got the ascendancy. So it's taken the better part of about 6 to 7 laps to finally nail that pass. The question is, can he drive away now? Has he got the tyres to drive away from car 55?
And that thing for Luke, he needs to get his head back down. He needs to focus. He's got the pass. He has been passed, but he shouldn't write that off.
Oh, Redmond around in the back.
Redmond around the background, so he's lost 2 spots there to Hans and to Brendan Ross. But no, Luke's got to keep the head down now, because if he lets that get to him, he's going to then be passed by Pete as well. And Pete's there in the background, although Luke he's having a look at Kurt, and Kurt's left him room.
Yeah, I think he's got to repass it straight away. I don't think he can afford to wait. He's got to get a move done very, very early. He's got to keep Kurt thinking. The longer he stays behind Stenberg now, the more vulnerable he's going to be to Kurt just driving away and not having any opportunity to repass. But again, Stenberg will park it in all the right spots. He was giving Rosella all the right looks. He will then park it in all the right spots to make Rosella earn this one. So he's going to have to pull something unconventional out of the bag.
I think we just saw a flash of as well there. Braxton Tango's driving found that was on track, so he's managed to get the track limit today. I didn't think anyone would get to that point, but unfortunately for Braxton Tango, not the ideal race for him to be subbing in the Kiwi Sim Sports car.
No, definitely not, but also continuing to pick up points, so that's the important thing for him. He's out there circulating points for Kiwi Sim Sports, and 2 laps to go. I think it's definitely a race in 2 at the moment. Savage there in case anything happens. Brunswick just a watching brief in the background. He might profiteer from this late if these 2 come to blows.
Yeah, and Hans has a little bit of a wiggle there from Luke. Hans has got the consistency and has had the consistency so far. He hasn't had the pace I would have bookmarked him for a top 4, but the way this race has been going, it has worked in his favour. Yeah, he is in a position at the moment. He's got clearance to Pete ahead, so if something happens to Pete, he's got clearance to predict. He's got clearance from the cars behind as well. Rossi is now the car behind him, but he's a good couple of seconds behind, so he's got some cushion. Not that he's going to back off, but he's got some cushion that if something goes wrong, he has got the time to calculate it and to make the best move for his car.
A little bit of action going a bit further on down the field. Lewis Weddings moved up the order to 8th ahead of Taipan. Snipes, a good result for Taipan at the moment as well, subbing in there for his 2nd appearance in Supercars main game. Right, last lap. Make it count, as it says in the game, Automobilista, if you've got the crew chief on. And for Stenberg, it is 2.87 kilometres to go to race victory. For Luke Rosella, it's 14 corners to try and find a way to make a pass. First opportunities here, down the inside. Here it comes firmly. He's got some margin. He's got a little bit of overlap, so he can afford to stick his nose in there and try and run it up to turn 5. So Stenberg leaves in the room. That's good, fair racing between the 2. He prevails for the moment. Turn 5 is the next primary spot, and right down the middle of the track goes Stenberg, and he'll probably do the same here at turn 6. Rosella will probably try and set it up down the inside, switches late, going to try and wrap outside front right, front left, locking on the run there, and that was probably critical because it means he couldn't wrap around the outside and then hold 4-7. So the next shot comes down here at 10 and 11, and then the final corner. So fast running out of options is Luke Rosella. Right on the boot lid now. Going to have to send it at the final corner. Is he close enough? No.
He's going to have to hope for a good run, but I don't think he's going to... No, he's got on the front too early. He has switched on the curb, so I don't think he's got it.
No.
He will still hold off over Pete, though, so that is a win for Kurt Stenberg. That is actually...
Win number 6.
But that is the last to first.
It's
near enough too.
Very nearly enough too. I think Lockie Burke was the last man on the grid. Kurt Stenberg was second to last, so he came from pretty much the back row of the grid, or close enough to the back row of the grid to win that one. And race win number 6 of 11 on the season for Kurt Stenberg. Luke Rosella, second place, so started second, finished second, and then Pete Savage, a good return to the podium for him, third place finish, and then Hans Brunswick on debut in the main game takes the PBF Race Engineering Roadies Photos car up to 4th, so good job there. Brendan Ross, one of his best results, 5th place for Rossi, he'll be happy with that. Redmond, he was a bit worried about his top 5 chances, but he got back to where he started, so he got back to 6th place overall. Rutledge, another top 10 for Cam Rutledge, that's 2 rounds in a row now inside the top 10, good return to form for Cam Rutledge. Lewis Wedding up to 8th. NZ Snipes for the Kiwis up to 9th, and Taipan gets a top 10 in his second main game appearance, the first as a substitute. Well done.
Some great performances all around. I think Lewis is one who we're pretty happy because he has picked up a reputation, one that's been given to him rather than him choosing to have it, of being the sim racing football the past couple of months with everyone, him just getting the control on the straw and getting involved in a lot of incidents that aren't his fault. He didn't get involved in a couple of this race, so still salvage a top 10 out of that. He'll be pretty happy. No, Cam top 10, and obviously Taipan in his second drive, and obviously some good points there for the underdeveloped team, which are actually doing pretty well of the 3 Kiwi teams. You wouldn't think that they'd be the front runners, and they're not quite, I believe, at this stage, but they're not always the 3rd best team on track. So some really good performances and a really wholesome top 10, I feel, aside from the other end of the field, which is Will Devonish and Braxton, Will Devonish finishing a lap down, and Brenton Foley not finishing this race. No,
definitely not. Kurt Stenberg with some celebratory burnouts on the burnout pad, on the drag strip rather, and much deserved for that one. So he'll be very, very happy boy. And I think the Kiwis, as you said, probably picked a very, very handy substitute in Taipan to jump in and pick up some much deserved points after that one. So good result, keeps the team's points going. Follows on from the good work that Cheese completed at the last round with some excellent results and excellent drives. I think he actually DNF'd the second race, but he had a very, very positive first race. And now we wait for a little bit, wait for the drivers for the podium interviews for that one. So after 2 safety cars, Rody, and some very, very, very intense racing toward the end of that one, it is going to be Kurt Stenberg who prevails, who picks up the extra packet of points relative to Luke Rosella and extends his margin at the top of the points standings.
Yeah, that was... it's a bit early to call it, and I'm going to find some wood to touch first, that I don't mock of the second race, but of a race to return to the commentary box in Supercars, I could not have picked much better.
Yep, I tend to agree. It definitely was probably one of the best ones to return to. I think we're starting to get the guys coming up to have a little bit of a visit with us up here in the commentary box, and I think we've got our first man who's just arrived, and still a couple more drivers to go. So why don't we start with 3rd place here, Rody?
Yeah, so Pete Savage, not the way you wanted that race to go from the team standpoint, but you've got to be pretty happy with a 3rd position.
Yeah, after the computer issues I've had, I'll gladly take that. I did actually have a time in quali where I was up and I possibly could have went to pole, but I had the issue there. I'm very thankful I had the issue there and not in the race. So yeah, in that race, it was just, don't worry about battling anyone, save your tires, and just try and keep it on there to bag as many points as I could. I seen Rosella and Stenny going for it at the end, and I didn't want to get caught up in that after some of the results I've had. So I just waited behind and got third.
Awesome. So yeah, what was your race like up to that point though? Because there's obviously a bit of work to get to that stage at the end of the final safety car.
Yeah, well, I think that all just came down to my race start. I think that's the first time I got off the line anywhere near as good as that. And that put me in a great position to just get away from all the cars, try and tuck in behind Rosella, get that slipstream, get away, and just save tyres.
Awesome. Well, as we said, that's a great result for you, and obviously some very good points in the driver standings, and hopefully you can repeat it again in the second race.
Hopefully.
Alrighty, swing over to Luke Rosella next. Luke, much same for yourself, although in a different format. Obviously, just the one driver for SSR the night, so you had to push hard, not only for yourself but also for the team points.
Yeah, that was bloody fantastic, Rody. I must say at the end there, bit disappointed though. I think I'll tell you what, Steady's a bit lucky for that safety car, but nah, that was fantastic. I had to probably make the widest Mustang in the history of pixel racing supercars. But credit on Stenny. He did a good job, and he ended up getting the win there. Unfortunately, but not really good for the championship as he increases the lead. But I'm pretty happy with second place. But yeah, he's pretty. It was a good battle.
It does increase the lead, but you were right there, so it's not by too much, and you're obviously still very much in the fight for the points. Like as I think we were talking in the commentary box, that would have been ideal for you if that last little race happened in the last 3 laps, not the last 10. So you must have been sweating bullets.
Yeah, I was a bit out of breath at the end of the race there. Yeah, it's probably just one of a few occasions I actually had to properly defend. Like, it's just unbelievable. Especially at this track with the slipstream, it's pretty hard to gap somebody, especially if you've got a similar pace deficit or advantage or whatever. So no, it was pretty hard work, and it was just a matter of fact of trying to nail all your apexes and try to block respectively. Good job on Stenny. He got the edge at the end there.
That was awesome racing from the very Luke, and great defensive driving right up to the point where he got past. That's still a great result for you, and some good points in it, and you're still within the hunt, and hopefully see something similar for you in the second race.
Thanks, Randy.
And finally, race 1 winner for tonight, Kurt Stenberg. Outside of the first lap, that all kind of went your way.
Yeah, I knew I needed to make up spots after qualifying, not being able to qualify on the first corner, and I actually did get hit into turn 1, and it damaged me. And that's why I took that opportunity under that first safety car to come into the lane, get a pit stop out of the way, because I had a tiny bit of steering damage. But then on in, it was all about trying to get as much positions as possible, and I thought I could end up about P2 or P3, depending on how we were going to wash out. But that late safety car, I don't know who caused that, but I owe them a carton of beers.
I'm trying to remember what that was myself, but no, I think you do. I think they're on now on your Christmas card list. That was how was that last lap? The last come up from your perspective?
It was pretty mad. Like, I've raced Luke in ASC door to door at this track only a week or so ago, so I knew it was going to be a tough battle. I knew his weak spots, I knew his strengths, and yeah, it was pretty mad to go side by side, but I know I can trust him and we've got respect. So, but I knew I didn't have much of my tyres left either, so I knew I had to get in front and then defend myself. And yeah, I wouldn't have liked to have seen how another lap would have gone because I didn't have much left on the rubber. But yeah, I'm happy that we managed to get the win because we needed to for the championship. So need to stay in front.
Absolutely. Another win for you, and another fun fact that you almost claimed there. Had you started off of the very last position, that would have been a last to first, which I think we've only seen 3 or 4 of in the history of ASR. So that's been a pretty good race for you, Kurt, and hopefully things go a little more favourably for you in the second race.
Yeah, hopefully, mate, and we'll see how we go there. We've got pretty good pace in qual trim and race trim, so I reckon we're on for another one of those. So yeah, we just need to make sure that we actually get a lap in and have a real go.
Awesome. Good luck for race 2.
Thanks, Rody.
And that's your 3 podium sitters for race 1.
There you go. So Kurt Stenberg with a win. Pete Savage 3rd place and Luke Rosella smack in the middle of the pair of them in 2nd place. So we'll take a short break to catch our breath after what was a sensational finish to the opening race tonight. And we'll be back with qualifying 2 in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. ASR Supercars Championship in 2021 is proudly brought to you by Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. Smith & Sons. Design, plan, construct. Cam Rutledge Electrical, and Matt Harvey Repair and Tune. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're just in a little bit of an intermission between races for the 6th round of the ASR Supercars Championship for 2021. Smith & Sons doing a fine job putting their money where their mouth is and sponsoring probably one of the closest series we've had in a very, very long time here in ASR. So a few guys still ready to make their way back into the service. So guys, if you're on the outer and you're waiting for the server to roll over to jump back in, there's still time for you to make it for qualifying session number 2. I'm just looking to see who's actually missing at the moment. It looks like we might be missing maybe, there's only 2 drivers that I haven't seen pop back up. So hopefully we'll be back to a full grid of 24 cars. Good to see that Damon Woods has got himself back into that one. I think, guys, if you've had some dramas with the game, a few game crashes, I think, out there, you might want to go and turn those graphics settings down a little bit. There are a couple of dramas that happen every now and again with regards to the graphics. Rody will be back in just a few moments' time, and like myself, I think every now and again the commentators need to have a little bit of a pit stop. And by pit stop, we mean we need to go and take a whiz. So there's always a little bit of that needs to happen in between qualifying sessions and race sessions. So you can see here there's plenty of activity going on. There's plenty of on-track activity going on as it can be seen. And a few drivers just burning up a couple sets of tyres just to put a little bit of extra practice in. And probably in about 2 minutes, I think we're probably going to head off to qualifying session number 2. Good to have plenty of you along in the live chat. Good to see good support for Supercars. Good to see the Super 2 guys that are in there as well, supporting the main series and the main series drivers. And hopefully some of you guys will be ready to jump into the main game at the next round, which is Retro Round for Calder Park. We've got a little sneak peek of some of the deliveries coming up after qualifying 2. And I can tell you now, there's if you were watching the stream a couple of weeks ago for Supercars and you got to see some of the retro liveries that have already been produced and you thought they were good, wait until you see some of the ones that are about to visit your screen in about 15 minutes time. Rudy, if you're back,
Yep.
how was that first race?
It was. It was. I could see that coming, as we're seeing there in that second safety car. I could see it. I could see something formatting. I did expect maybe something. It's a little greedy of me. I did expect a little more. I did expect maybe Pete to get in. I think Pete wanted to get in there as well, but he didn't quite have the pace that he needed. He only really sort of catched them as the two in front were battling. But that was still like a good race to see, and there was racing, and it's one of those races, and we get a lot of them here at ASR, which is the best part. But it's a double-edged sword, because you get those good races where there's little pockets of racing all through the field. You can only cover one angle of the racing, and it was probably a pretty good scrap at points there with Hans and Tim Redmond and Rossi for the minor placings, and Lewis coming up through the field as well, and he was involved in some heres and theres, and I think some of the guys maybe inside the top 10 were having a good little battle there as well. And unfortunately, we weren't in a position where we could have watched all of it, because I'm sure there was some good racing. But at the end of the day, as with all the racing, I hope and I think from what we've seen, outside of the drivers who either DNF'd because of crashes or because of game issues, I hope those that did finish all enjoyed the racing they had, and based on what we've seen, I think they have.
Yeah, and the sad part, I think, out of all of that was, as you rightly pointed out, we didn't have an opportunity to look up and down the field in those sort of last 10 laps to see what was going on, because the real action was at the front. The bit that everybody was interested in was happening at the front, and there were battles and positions changing hands quite cleanly a bit further down the order. And I think even a lot of guys in the live chat applauding some of the driving that they saw in that last stint or last phase of the race. With the hats off driving. I mean, I take my hat off to those two. They raced hard, they raced fair, and they raced clean all the way through those last 10 laps of that race. And well, if we get a finish like that, Rody, I'm sure we will be very, very happy come the end of tonight's proceedings.
Absolutely. No, something like that again in the second race. Just in terms of balance, so I would. I'm not supposed to have any bias, although I do also have some preference toward the PBF cars and towards my car, which is so far Hans has proven it's not the car that's the problem, so that's good to know. But it's just in the interest of nice balance fairness that the championship doesn't change at the end of tonight, and just to be on the fence as I'm known for being. I would like to see Luke prevail if something like that does happen again at the end of the second race. But we've got a long way to get there, and it starts with the qualifying session.
It does, and the man who's heading the queue there is Brenton Foley and Pete Savage. So those are the top two cars at the head of the lane, and we are green for qualifying number 2. So out comes Foley, Savage. There's Hans Brunswick. There's Cam Rutledge. Nathan Higginson's back in after the early exit in race 1. Lockie Burke, Steve Warwick, and then you've got Freakish. And who was that? That was Braxton Stancliffe, who pulled over and sort of went to the track left, as far left as he could go, and then just gone back to the lane. So maybe something a little bit amiss there as they all file out of pit lane. So yeah, did Kurt Stenberg manage to get back in for this one? I think he might be the one who might be missing. So we've got 23 drivers, and
yes,
no Kurt Stenberg again. So, Foley's had a spin.
Foley, that's
wowee! On an outlap, that's
having a real go of it.
That's having a real go. So you caught that one on the camera there. I think Brent Foley might be in line for a bit of an award at the end of the year for the most unusual event. There'll be expletives going on in that helmet, and especially because he's been caught on the live stream. So that's not going to be good for Brent Foley. But
I don't know how to look at it. It was the most innocuous thing, but the problem was he just got on the right rear on the curb coming out of that long right hander, which normally splits you into the wall either the inside or the outside, but he caught it. But then the rear just kept going, and he just sat there. He did about 4 or 5 spins on the grass before he finally got it caught again. So the expletives, and he's probably going to be a little dizzy as well.
I think he will be very dizzy, and I think it's going to be one of those awards. If you were watching or a big fan of Top Gear, I think they had the Golden Cock Award, which was for cocking up something. So I think we might have to award a Golden Cock for Foley for that little one. That's going to be hard to beat, I think, for that sort of award this year, if we do end up with another one of the awards dinners. Let us know in the live chat, guys, if you watched the awards ceremony late last year that we put together. If you'd like us to do another one of those, let us know, because we'll certainly put one on if there's definitely interest. I think we actually had as many people watching the awards night as we did watching the Bathurst live pit lane draw for the 500 last year, which was fantastic to see. All right, opening salvos are coming in. Despite the spin, Foley's actually gone provisional pole at the minute with a 5.2, so good opening benchmark. 3.5 tenths quicker than Pete Savage as the times all start to come in.
Yeah, so the guys dropping in, Damon Woods has just usurped that by just under a tenth of a second, doing that 5.183. And that's the bulk of the guys at the top. Somebody's spun it somewhere in turn one. I think a car idling somewhere off to the side. There
Steve
is
Warwick.
Steve Warwick.
Yep, so he's
and
off
yeah, so that top 10 at the moment sitting Damon Woods, Brenton Foley, Will Devonish, Pete Savage, and then Snipe for the top 5.
Yeah, early days yet, I think. There's a few drivers out there that have not really set representative times. Rosella's one is 2 seconds off the pace, so definitely, well, it's actually 2.3 to be more precise. Definitely got a lot of improvement there, but I think he had a little bit of traffic on that lap as well. We get down to the sector split here, and that's a bit more relative to what we're seeing from Luke Rosella. So 10th under the pole time as it stands at the moment. Turn 6, so in the goods through sector 1. So purple sector's on the last lap, or the provisional pole lap as it sits at the moment. Damon Woods had the purple middle and a purple last, and here we go. Rosella, you can see there, they're up on the PB. Forget the up on the PB time because it was a terrible lap. Ooh, there's a bit of a game glitch for Luke Rosella there. I'm not sure what's quite gone on there for him, but he was up on the time there, and something has, yeah, I think something might have gone a bit awry for him.
Yeah, it looks like maybe I've seen game freezes or just lack of frames pop up for some people, and he has pitted, so I don't know. Maybe something running in the background he's going to close. We have a couple of drivers, Ethan Higginson, one notable example of having issues with stuff open in the background. I think he had a couple of instances of R factor, and I think it was something like Photoshop still running in the background when he crashed out of one race in particular.
Yeah, I think Lewis Weddings had a similar thing happen to him as well. So he's out there still running around as well. Now Will Devonish, who was the pole sitter in the last race, is on for it again. He is 2 tenths up on the pole position time and his own time as well. So this will put him back into the 9s. Yeah, the 9.8 for the pole lap in qualifying 1. And at the moment he has a 5 flat. So he lost a little bit in the last corner, I'd say. That's where probably most of that one's come from. And the big lash upper car's getting ready to leave the pit lane again.
Yeah, so you're at the point now, you're leaving the pit lane, you're going to get probably 2 flying laps in, or you're going to have a crack and then come back and very quick get again. I think it's at the 1 minute mark or so that you need to be getting out of the pit lane to then get back in, and they're just trying to get in. So Harm's a good example. You're allowed to use extra runoff on driver's right hand side on the way into turn 1 to get out cleanly in qualifying, but can't take another option to just start across in front of practicing safely before the gap was there. And that is one other option to make sure that the pit lane exit is nice and clean, because obviously on an outlap you don't need the best line. You're not getting any representative time from that.
No, you're not at all. And Luke Rosella is going to have to really pull something out in the last few minutes. He's sitting 23rd and last at the moment. He was on for a really good time. We were watching it as he came around and then had some sort of a game glitch on the run through the final corner. And that would have been probably good enough to put him probably front row. So he's got to, from probably was about here, right, about 3 flying laps I think he'll probably get in. It's about a minute 6, minute 5 per lap. So he'll be lucky if he's got enough fuel on board to go for 3 laps. He cannot afford a mistake though. He cannot afford to butcher a lap, butcher a set of tyres and go back to the lane, because he won't have much time to get out again. He'll be very rushed to get that if he happens.
He's in a really good position right now. The question will be whether someone comes out of the pit lane in front of him to start this lap, but he's got Damon Woods in front, who's currently sitting second. The car behind, I think at the moment, is Termo, and he's not troubling the sort of pace that that Luke might be doing. So he's got plenty of speed track to work with. He has run a little wide there. I'm not sure whether the tyres are just not maybe overheated the tyres a little bit in these warm-up. A little wide there, which won't help. He should still end up improving on his time, but he's coming through. Okay, so that wasn't where he got his incident because he is only just off his PB through Sector 1. It was a car over the outside. I think that was one of the...
That was Damon Wood's car as well, actually.
Sorry, so the next car he's now got is Ujit Mishra and Tim Redmond, and I'm not sure whether those are on an outlap or what's happening. They're just not as quick as Luke. He's going to catch them.
Mishra's just ahead of him. Mishra's getting blue flags here because he's on an outlap, and I think so too. Redmond's actually about to start a lap, so good driving there from Ujit Mishra to get out of the way of the faster car. And Rosella's times at the moment, all PBs, all green boxes so far, so this will launch him up the order, and it launches him up to 4th place, so it's a 10th and a little bit behind. So it's 2nd row with Pete Savage provisionally as it stands at the moment. And Redmond ahead of him in 7th place, going for another flying lap. So these two have got another 2 minutes to make this work. Times for Rosella this time, and a little bit better through Sector 1, not quite on the Sector 2, so on the provisional pole position pace as it stands at the moment. Provisional pole sitter Will Devonish is going again. And likewise Pete Savage, who's in 3rd place, sharing the road with this man at the moment. There's actually quite a few mistakes I'm noticing going on there. There's a few drivers bowling it wide at turn 1, and a few drivers that are a little bit slower than they probably want to be. Rosella was looking relatively good up to the sector split. Redmond actually bails out of it, so he was down, and that'll be his qualifying session over. I think Rosella will have to go for one more here as he got tyres to do it. Doesn't improve on that lap, and here we go. Look at this lash up. There's a number of drivers that I just noticed starting to leave the lane. Lewis Wedding was leaving it, and oh, look at this. There's actually quite a logjam at the moment as well. And Damon Woods is about to start a flying lap too, and these guys have all left the lane.
He wasn't on a lap there because he's had to fall to the inside. I do hope he got his lap done there because he didn't. He's lost it, and from where Ross is sitting, he might not get back around. I don't think Snipes and Higo are very marginal on getting around at all. I saw Higo was jumping in, coming out from his pit box, and the rest of them leaving the lane. They've got to push hard.
And Woods has had his lap ruined. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Roddy. I think Woods may have backed out of that one there because there's something he was up at Sector 1 split, but I don't know whether the car just looked like it stopped in the middle of the track or something. But yeah, he's pulling off here. I think he's going to have to settle for 3rd, and these guys are going to struggle to get another lap in. They've not got very much time to get around and make this work. So Brenton Foley, has he been the only one that might be able to time this? Got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Make it either.
Nope, they're not going to get another one.
And you saw 2 or 3 guys immediately jump out because they knew they'd lost it. I think Damon sidestepped Foley thinking, all right, I've still got time here. He just want to let Foley through, but no, he's out of the argument as well.
Yep, he is indeed.
And of the top 5,
Devonish lowered the bar.
Devonish has improved.
Yeah, so he's lowered the bar, and Pete Savage has actually gone to P2.
PB.
And Rosella's 4th.
Yeah,
so.
he has improved, but he's 3 tenths off his PB, so he won't be improving from there, but he has got P2 pretty well covered. Of the top 10, he's the only one on track. The only other people on track, Taipan is up on his PB coming into the last couple of corners. And behind him is Freakish, also up on his PB, but not by a lot. From where they're sitting, Taipan will put himself above Freakish. Freakish will probably then improve himself then above Taipan, so we might see a net 0 change. There's Taipan up to 12th, and Freakish now comes to the line. And he's probably going to jump back into no. So he stays in 13th. So that has actually been a position change between 2 of the Kiwi Sim Sports junior cars, and that's one done.
Yeah, Freakish had a wiggle out of the final corner, which cost him a little bit of time as well. So that would be the reason for that one. As we end qualifying session number 2. So pole position again, Will Devonish. So he gets 2 out of 2 on the pole positions for the night. And with Pete Savage alongside him, Damon Woods and Luke Rosella are the next row. Foley and Ross, so it's an all PBF Race Engineering 3rd row. Hans Brunswick, which is pretty much about where he started in race number 1, in 7th. Tim Redmond 8th. That's a bit more further down the order than Redmond would probably like. And then Snipes and Termo make up the top 10. Lockie Burke, who started rear of grid essentially in the last race, qualified 11th. So he's qualified dead smack in the middle there. And we have a look at the field spread. Field spread's only 1.4 seconds first to last, so that's actually not too bad.
That's pretty good. And it's interesting, some of the drivers that have popped out there. He wasn't too good in practice, and the race did come good for him, but Lewis Wedding down in 20th. He didn't get a lap, and I think that he wanted. That's why the field spread is so minimal that he might have got it, and then just everyone else has picked up the pace across the night. Higginson 21st, but no, there's some good fields, some nice tight field bunching there. The other one that we don't see represented in there, of course, is whatever time Kurt could do. Now Kurt will actually, unless other drivers start from rear grid, and I've seen Scott Nolan in the chat, he's just got home, so he might potentially jump in for the second race. But Kurt will actually be starting the last of the cars on the grid.
As it stands right now, yes. He will. And as we said, the last person we saw do this in Supercars was Mitch Hathaway, 2019, Adelaide. It was a last to first. I think it was about 22 cars that night, and he drove from the rear to the front and won that race. I think it was the 200k race at Adelaide when it was Super 2. But
that would be one heck of a coincidence that the last time it happened was the last time I commentated on a Supercars race. The next time it happened is the next time I commentate on a Supercars race. Although I need to find some wood again.
Yeah, I think you do need to find some wood again for that one. We're not quite sure. Well, in the intermission here, I did promise you we were going to take a look at some of the Retro Round previews. Retro Round's 3 weeks away. Retro Round at Calder Park, where everything that is old is new again. Wait till you see Calder Park and the work that Lewis Wedding's been doing for that. It's basically, it would be like if Tony Quinn decided to buy Calder Park off the Janes rather than decide to go and buy the Queensland Raceway and Lakeside off of John Tetley. That basically is what Calder Park looks like if you want to sort of put your thinking cap on. Last round rather, you would have seen there was a handful of liveries. We saw some from CRE, we saw some from Synergy Sim Racing. We saw a couple others in there as well. We saw the Warwicks in there with their liveries, the Blackshaw Smash Repairs liveries. They were all very, very good. The bar, I think, has been raised a little bit this time. So we'll start with the privateer ones. So here we go, Rody. You've seen a couple of these. So here's Brendan Ross's throwback livery with the 444 PBF Race Engineering Commodore. And this one is a bit of a throwback to this car, the 1986 VK Commodore of Larry Perkins. So very, very nice job there. The Red Bull colours actually go quite well with that overall colour. Then we come to Nathan Higginson in the 00 Autodesk car. This is actually based off the Silver Bullet from Russell Ingall, the 2000 Commodore, that the Kellys actually did a tribute with the Nissan Altima the last time the Altimas raced at Bathurst. So there's Higo's interpretation, and there is the car in question that they has actually based it off of. Now comes the stuff out of Daniel Cox's design, so be prepared to be blown away here, guys. So Lewis Wedding's gone NASCAR style for his Retro Round tribute, and this car is actually based off of the Mark Martin number 6 Ford Taurus from 1998. There it is. Mark Martin took that car to 7 wins, 22 top 5s, and 26 top 10s on the season. Did not win the title, but then the next year Ford Taurus came along in the hands of Dale Jarrett and did win the NASCAR Cup title back then. An interesting time for NASCAR because this was the only time that Ford was allowed to run what was a 4-door saloon in what is normally a coupe-driven league back in 1998. So it was a rare exception and a very, very good-looking car, and a job well done there for Daniel Cox. Then we get to Lockie Burke. Here we go again. If you can guess this one, you're doing very, very well. So the Hype SimSport car is based on the Jordan 191 of 1991. So the car that was driven by Bertrand Gachot, it was also driven by Andre de Cesaris for the season. Very famously, the car that Michael Schumacher piloted is that car number 32 over there that he made his Formula One debut in at Belgium when Bertrand Gachot was thrown into jail for 2 months. So there you go. Well done on that one. And there's a beautiful shot of it side by side. And my favourite, the one that's coming up next, is I think probably takes the cake. Here we go. The Team Harvey Norman Ben Hall Mustang, based on the 1976 ATCC XB Ford Falcon hardtop driven to the ATCC title by Alan Moffat. There it is, card 9 and card 19. Livery very, very similar to the one that then came back in 1977 with the very famous 1-2 finish for Colin Bond and Alan Moffat at the Hardy Ferodo Bathurst 1000. And this livery you've seen before. Not only have you seen it here, but you've seen it also in the real world tribute. There it is, the Tickford car, driven by Mark Winterbottom and Dean Canto in the year that they had the retro liveries up there at Bathurst as well. And my favourite touch, look at that, Rody. It's even got the 351 GT on the back. How about that?
It's beautiful. No, you're right. They've raised the bar, and I love the diversity in the liveries that come out as well. I did not expect Lewis to go the NASCAR route, and it's almost very appropriate that he has, though. His big issue last year is he felt like he was in championships here, there, and everywhere, and just had them all stolen from him or from his team. Very appropriate that he picked the Mark Martin car, because I'm pretty sure Mark Martin is one of the best drivers in NASCAR to never won a championship, and it's something that Mark Martin fans, I've seen some great video essays on his career and how he came so close so many times and just didn't get there. So it's very appropriate for Lewis to be running that car. The 7-Up livery, the Jordan 101, I did not see that one coming either, and that's a really cool approach, getting an F1 livery to work on a supercar. That's something we don't see all that often. I think I've seen maybe a Wish and Minnow car at some point. That's the only other one I've seen out there.
Yeah, the third one we've actually seen was the AlphaTauri car driven by Burko and Brunswick in last year's Bathurst 500. So it's about the third time that Formula One sort of lookalikes have made their way onto the grid. It was the Scuderia Alitalia cars from Brian Walsh and Glenn Miles last year that you're probably alluding to, with the Mission Winnow logos on the car and the red, white and green of Italy. So a job well done there. And I did say there's a couple of other liveries still to come, so I have seen some sneak previews of the Kiwi Sim Sports developed and underdeveloped team Nissans. I like the direction that's going. Nathan Higginson's at the helm with that one. And I haven't seen some previews of other stuff going on. I'm told that Steve Burko will have a retro livery for Loose Sim Sport as well, and that the Kiwi Sim Sport team of Scott Stancliffe and Tim Redmond will have something coming as well. So if everybody turns up, I think just about everybody's got a retro livery. The only cars that I'm yet to see them for, well, Rody will be one, your car would be one, and then the other ones are the AAR Mustangs of Mishra and Lime Mitch. So there's a couple still to come. And I tell you now, I want to say this now, guys that have had their cars painted for them, if you don't turn up to race your car, I will personally turn up to your door with a shotgun and shoot you, and I don't like guns, so that's saying something.
No, there's been some really good effort. And I think this hasn't been mandatory. It never has been mandatory to run a retro livery, and we've seen some pretty good support across the last couple of seasons. But this is the first time, and especially because we've brought out some of the regular schedules, not at Sandown, it's at Calder Park, which is still a historic track for supercars racing. That we've got, I think, 100% participation. The only guys out there that won't, as we know, as yet have retro cars are the wild cards. That said, there are plenty of real-life supercars liveries we can pull from, that we can pull from our Super 2 pack or pull from some other packs around the place, and we could have a completely retro grid in 3 weeks' time, and that would be really awesome to see.
Yeah, I agree. There is a couple of retro liveries floating around the place. And remember, for the Super 2 and Super 2 Summer Series, there was some retro packs that came out as well that Lewis Wedding did some work on there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something popping up for the wildcards that do make an appearance. And there are a few guys in mind that we have on the books, if they perform well in Super 2, that will be getting a shot at Calder Park. Simple track, and a few of the old timers I think will probably be eyeing off, wondering is it me? I'm not going to say just yet, but we'll if you perform well, we might have a slightly expanded grid for the retro round, because I think there's a few drivers that would love to have a run at Calder Park, especially in a retro livery. Well, it's not too long to go. I think we are actually about to tick over for the second race tonight. And just waiting to get some official word through that we are good to go. And it looks like we are getting ready to go. So off the back of the grid is being off the back of the grid the spot to be. Kurt Stenberg certainly thinks so after his effort in race 1. Being down the back means you stay out of the chaos and can somehow find your way to the front, Roadie.
Yeah, one driver we won't be seeing, and I did remember he might be making it in, is Scott Nolan. He did only recently just get home, and I think he's already calling it a night, so shame we won't see Scotty out there, but we do still have obviously a strong representation from SSR with Luke Rosella. Yeah, we're going to see now he has, I'm not sure whether maybe he was reading between the lines with maybe what I was saying in an interview in the first race. He is now starting last, so if he finishes first, that is a full lap to first. Obviously, wood is touched everywhere I can find it, so I'm not trying to put a muzzle on any part of this race, despite how powerful the commentary curse is, but the potential is there.
There he is, circling with the mouse right down the back. So there is the TTR Commodore right down the very back of the grid, and has got a lot of work to do to make this one work. So he'll be praying for those safety cars again, I think, Rhodey, because they worked for him last time, and as we roll through the grid for race 2, they need to work for him again, I think.
They do, yeah. So let's go through the grid for race 2, starting off the front row. As with last race, is Will Devonish. He is unfortunately notorious for not having the best of starts. Hopefully he can nail one for this second race and build himself a nice little margin in the first few laps. Second will be his teammate in Pete Savage. Good run for Pete there in the first race to finish third. He hopefully, I think he still has some bigger ambitions in mind. Third will be Damon Woods. Unfortunately, a disconnect for him in that first race. Hopefully he can crack on well in that second race. He obviously did win on debut in Super 2, so we know he's got some pace on board. Fourth will be Luke Rosella, as I said, the lone Synergy Team Racing car, with Brenton Foley starting from 5th. In the queue of PBF cars, Brennan Ross is in 6th, and Hans Brunswick starting from 7th in the number 010. 8th is Tim Redmond in a little Kiwi 2-pack here, with NZ Snipes behind in the development team Ultra. Thermo starting from 10th, not a bad result for Thermo, and hopefully can do well in this race, with Lockie Burt starting from 11th in the Hype Sim Sport number 44 that we're seeing in that Dawn livery in 3 weeks' time. 12th is Taipan in the car normally driven by Cheese, not doing too bad in his sub-roll tonight, with Freakish in another one of the Kiwi Sim Sport Ultimas in 13th. Lime Mitch in 14th. Hopefully you can stay out of trouble in this race for AAR, with Pete Crow in 15th. That's Cam Rutledge and Ujit Mishra, and then Braxton Stankley in 18th. Lockie Lock in 19th, with Lewis Wedding starting from 20th, not where he wants to be starting, although it might pay off for him in the end. 21st for Nathan Higginson. Hopefully he can follow Lewis and Kurt through the field. Steve Warwick starting 22nd, Ben Hall 23rd for Harvey Norman, and Kurt Stenberg starting last with a really good start for race 2.
Fantastic. I just got told I was actually muted for that race start. I don't know what happened there. You guys just had a little bit of an audio blast for that one. I was actually calling that Luke Rosella had gone for the Shane Van Gisbergen and moved down the inside at turn 1 and got the job done.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I thought my end had broken, but no, a good start for the race there. Will not bottling it too bad from what I saw. Damon Woods, though, brilliant start. He's now currently in the race. He's second. Sorry, he is second. Sorry, I'm just coming out. So that was Luke to the front. I was paying attention. Yeah, so good start for him, though, in second. Will back to third. Pete in fourth, with Hans still hanging there in 5th.
And that was a shame too, because that was probably one of the best starts that Will Devonish has had all season long, and Luke Rosella basically pulled the Shane Van Gisbergen on him straight into turn 1, and I think Will was pretty much asleep at the wheel there. Didn't expect to see it coming, and didn't defend it. So maybe thinks he trusts his race pace a little bit more, but he needs to crack on here and needs to get back past the number 7 car of Damon Woods. Coincidentally, Kurt Stenberg has made his way from the back up to 16th at the end of the first lap. He's tucked in here behind behind Taipan and Lewis Wedding as he dispatches Taipan and now heads up to turn 5, and Lewis leaves plenty of room there, plenty of gap on the early going here. No need to fight and argue over the positions very, very early, and that's now position 14.
Yeah, Kurt's got a long way to go, I think, before he's going to find drivers that are really going to start to make him earn. But since he's getting, he is going to be able to get freakish here, running a little wide in his battle with Lockie Burke, who is now up to 12th. Brendan Ross might have been a good start, actually, just in front of these two. Currently sitting in 11th, so not a good start for Rossi there, whether it was just a poor start or whether there was some early lap melee for him. Just notice we've already lost Ben Hall, unfortunately, as well.
Yeah, it looks like that's a disconnect for him as well. He hadn't even completed the opening lap, so there's a bit of a drama there for the Team Harvey Norman Mustangs. So that's out of commission. And instead, Brendan Ross with a bit of a poor start. Eyeing off a move, though, on Lime Mitch for the final spot in the top 10. And no way through there. Lockie Burke tried the similar thing, and now he's going to get monstered by Kurt Stenberg out of turn 1. And he may hold here, actually, Lockie Burke. He does. Stenberg clears the throttle and then will go down the inside at 5. And that's a nice firm pass down there for what is 12th place. And no gap to switch back into there.
Okay, he is very hard just when the others up, but he was helped by the train that Stenberg had to stop in a way that he wasn't going to run into the back of Rossi. Well, Berkey had the option to go for a dive if he felt he could make it work. He has pulled back in the end, although he is now going to imagine trying to use Kurt as a bit of a pick to open up some passes for him further up the field.
Just seeing as well, there was a bit of descent from Mujib Mishra at the hairpin as well, and then he went and spun of his own accord as well. So he's dropped to plumb last as we get a new fastest lap of the race for David Woods, immediately surpassed by Brent Foley, who's tucked in that back of that little battle there. There he goes, tucked in behind Hans Brunswick.
Re-widen to turn 1 now with Kurt. Yeah, don't think he's going to make a move here. He might be able to make a move on Lime Mitch. No, he's all right. Didn't know he died, which was a good start, and he has pulled off both passes. That's some good situational awareness.
Yeah, very good driving heads up by everybody that was involved there. So 3 wide could be a bit of a disaster going into turn 1 sometimes, and now there's a little bit of airspace between the 10th place Stenberg and the 9th place Turmo, who's locking horns with Cheese. I keep saying Cheese, it's on the brain at the moment. It's locking horns with NZ Snipes at the moment as they run into turn 7. This is a nice little battle. 2 combatants that are very familiar with each other from the Super 2 days. Although Snipes is not doing much with Super 2 now. I think he's doing a little bit of the driver education with some of the younger Kiwis coming through. Josh Watson, Braxton Stancliffe, and all the Kiwi crew learning from some of the guys in the main game. So those two are definitely no stranger to each other from last year. As the new fastest lap now for Will Devonish, who's cracking on a little bit with the pace and still tucked in here. And they have actually caught back up to Luke Rosella. So the lap time's broadly similar between Woods and Rosella at the front at low 6s and Devonish in the mid 5s. So he's well and truly in a bit of a zone at the moment. Again, race pace is good from car 15. Qualifying pace is stellar, but just cannot convert the starts. And when the starts don't get converted, race pace is where he has to try and make it up. But then some of these incidents that are coming up that are not his own fault, he's now up to 2. And they're starting to cruel his championship charge. Basically, they've cancelled the incidents that are not his own doing, and a couple of the strategy miscues over the course of the season, Rhodey, have really nullified the points gain that he had from Kurt Stenberg's DNF at Adelaide.
Exactly, yeah. Like Will's had the opportunity, obviously, from Adelaide to have a good swing at a title here. But it hasn't quite gone his way. And one of the things with the starts, well, he has come up to a section track area, has been a section track recently. Barbagallo was an alright one for a bad start because it was such a short run for the first turn. Decent run here, decent run at Calder. Forget what the next round is from here. I think it might be SMP.
Correct, yeah, SMP follows Calder
and
Park.
And that's, I mean, at race pace at turn 1, that's not really full pace. So effectively turn 2 is turn 1 on lap 1. So he's got a really bad stretch of tracks here that if you can't make a start, you're going to get swamped. That's the one thing I think he needs to work on. That's probably his biggest foilable that he can probably fix fairly easily. There's some little things about his driving, but that's the one bit that makes the rest, that really amplifies the rest of his miscues. That he's got to try and recover from those bad starts. If he doesn't have the bad start, he doesn't have to recover from it.
Yeah, correct. And I think the only one on that calendar that might be saving grace is Calder Park, because Calder Park was a bit of a bogey track for Kurt Stenberg last year. He had a spin there and missed a couple of points as well. So that's probably the only real one that he's going to have a good chunk of points, because Kurt Stenberg loves Sydney Motorsport Park. It's one of his favourite tracks, as well as Hidden Valley, and he performs very, very well there, evidenced by last year's run in the 200-kilometre race. And speaking of Kurt Stenberg, he's about to put the move on Turmo for 9th here. So down the inside, Snipes a little bit wide, but he's got the line that Stenberg was trying to run through the corner. So no pass on this particular occasion on NZ Snipes, but he gets one more spot against Turmo. And it is starting to become a little bit more difficult here, as you said before. Stenberg will get up through the traffic very, very quickly to a point, and then that point will become a little bit more challenging the further north on the timing tree he advances.
Yeah, so he's already got to here that he has interrupted, which was Turmo and Snipes, but that has turned into a battle, I think, now with Turmo and Rossi. I think they're both very clean operators. They're both going to sit there and run line astern as long as they're different on pace. Bit of well for the both of them. They both caught it. They're just going to try and sit here again, as long as the others just try and follow Kurt. I can see Lockie both in the background. Obviously, had similar ideas at one point. Bit of contact there with Kurt and Snipes. Snipes just closing the door on Kurt ever so slightly. Snipes probably fairly well aware he doesn't drive the pace on Kurt, but all he needs to do is hold him off, and it can at least help him out. It can help out his team as well. I believe there is Tim Redmond up ahead, so he's probably working in collaboration with Tim.
Yeah, I think so too. So Stenberg goes through, and I think there was a little bit of animosity after the first race between those two. I did see there was some comments being exchanged about possible redress being needed. I'm not sure what's going on there, but there might be a little bit of an investigation after that one if there needs to be one. So Stenberg does go through to 8th place, and in the next battle he's going to come up on is this little battle pack that is starting to form. So Pete Savage has a bit caught by Tim Redmond here, and then Hans Brunswick was locked in battle with Redmond for a little while as well. So that battle's just split apart, and they're honing in on the back of Brenton Foley. So again, this nice little train here, there you can see Foley, Savage, and then Redmond, and then Brunswick, and then a bit further back is Kurt Stenberg. So it's all just starting to come together a little bit nicer now as everything goes on. Back to the lead of the motor race we go. This little battle pack is nicely entrenched and just sort of covering each other off. So there they go. And then about 4 seconds behind comes Brenton Foley, Savage, Redmond, Brunswick, then Stenberg, and then Snipes and Turmo resuming their battle.
Yeah, so we're getting this nice stage where all those little battle packs are forming. Obviously, the one guy coming through all of this is Kurt. He has started to encounter some issues. He's going to encounter them now. Hans was definitely making him earn it in that first race. As coming up to the pit stop window. He's asked him a little sooner now, just on how things have turned out. Obviously, because Kurt didn't pit in the first lap this time around. Yeah, I'm interested to see how this falls out this time. But Hans, if he feels like he has to let Kurt through, he's going to do it in a way which suits Hans. He doesn't want to lose the gap he's got for Tim Redmond, because he's just about within the slipstream range where he's sitting currently, and you can actually see him, I think, just about moving up. That said, Tim Redmond also just about moving up. So there's sort of in a little bit of a slipstream conga train here where they're just about within range. Tim Redmond having a bit of a look there at Pete. The door was never really quite open, and Pete made it obvious that was the case. So, but they're just sort of the concertina coming in and out as they come through the braking zones. But yeah, it's going to start definitely getting tricky for Kurt now.
Well, it might be tricky, but he was the fastest man on the track last time around at a 6 flat. Everybody else ahead of him was in the low to mid 6s. Slowest man was actually Pete Savage at 6.7, and he's the man on screen at the moment. So he's holding up Redmond a bit, and then Stenberg starting to hone in on the back of Brunswick. He was 0.4 of a second quicker than Hans on the last lap, and the field it's all going Stenberg's way at the moment. So he's got the pace to pass these guys and got the pace to catch up to them. 0.4 of a second a lap though, he's going to need to pick his strategy right. So he's not got the luxury this time of coming in under safety car and having a bit of a better strategy with fresher tyres at the early outset, and then going on a sort of a contra strategy relative to everybody else. Oh, Savage a little bit deep here at turn 1 as well. That's given Redmond a sniff down the inside. And Hans will probably has just been passed by Stenberg. So Stenberg made that one look easy in the end of the day. And Savage just holds on to P5, leaving the door open there for Redmond. But Stenberg will be on these guys very, very quickly once he's now dispatched of Brunswick. And in fact, he's actually right there.
Yeah, we talked about in strategy, and we're interested how this goes because he doesn't have the comfort of the first lap reset on his tyres. He's been pushing pretty hard at race pace for the last 11 laps. We saw tyres start to go around lap 14, lap 15, and this was not from the front runners. So he's going to be pretty. He might have to back off at some point in second stint to make it on tyres, or I wouldn't say switch to hards because that would ruin his pace. He's going to have to be on softs again, but he's going to have to manage his tyres, I feel.
Well, looking at that time as well for Stenberg with a 5.9 that he just set on that one, which is his best lap. He's not quite his fastest lap of the race. His fastest lap is a 5.7, but he is the quickest man out there in the track, and he is sort of blazing along through the tyres, so he's going to have to be very careful. Now he's got to be ultra careful how he picks his way through here. He's got Redmond, and whether or not he can get Pete Savage on the run down to 6 or not remains to be seen, and the answer to that question is now no. But he is progressing through the field, and I'm wondering whether or not the front couple of cars have gone into a bit of a tyre preservation mode already, because they're doing lap times in the 6.2s and the 6.4s, and maybe just trying to make sure they get to about that lap 17, 18 mark where they need to get, where they can get in and comfortably get home. From Barbagallo, we did see that if you got to 1 lap past the half distance mark, you were pretty safe if you were trying to make the one-stop strategy work, because you'd done the out lap or the formation lap on the tyre, you'd done more than half the race on that tyre, so you actually had a little bit left in reserve if you needed to fight toward the end of the race. You could actually have something under you to hold position or fight for a position or make a pass if you needed to get the job done without the fear of the tyre exploding or rotating to a flat spot that you may have already put a mark on. So these guys will be looking, if you do your math, 35 laps is not an even stint, so you can work it out. You can get to 17 laps is 1 lap short of half distance. If you can get to lap 18 or 19, it's probably about where you want to be.
One thing I would talk about the tyre preservation potential with the top 3. I think there might be a bit of that in play. I think the other thing as well, like Will and, as we see, Higginson wide there letting them through. We see like Luke and Will have been competitive with each other previously, although where Luke's sitting, where Will's sitting, they need something pretty major to happen for them to actually be fighting for anything big picture. So I think those two are in a bit of an uneasy truce where they're just like, you're my competitor, but you're not Kurt, therefore we can exist in this little bubble where we're running in a train and I'm not going to have a big dive out. And possibly with conserving tyres. But the one wild card in that is Damon Woods. He's there to collect team points, and I imagine he's only known Lewis for a fortnight, but I imagine he doesn't want to be on the receiving end of a Lewis barrage for fencing one of his cars, or doing anything too silly. And that's he has got also race experience as well. I think he's happy to sit here and pick up some lines and some experience from 2 very experienced operators around him, and hopefully put himself in a better position towards the end of this race. But I think we're in a bit of an uneasy truce for this top 3. But they're sort of running their own big picture race, as opposed to, Kurt Stenberg, as I mentioned, who has now got to make up 3 seconds just to get on the back of Brent Foley, who we can see just at the back of this train. And he's making some very slight inroads on this train almost as well, it would appear. But yeah, I think they're all in a bit of an uneasy truce to type conservation, just thinking big picture and not, thinking who can be the next, the fastest, or the next in first as they come over the line for the next lap. That said, Woods does keep putting the nose down the side.
He does. He keeps having a couple of sneaky looks down at turn 1, so that's twice in 2 laps he's done that. You mentioned Brent Foley's coming. He's about 4 or 5 tenths quicker than these guys at the moment. These guys' lap times are dropping quite quickly at the moment as the laps wear on and the stint goes on. And relative to the drivers behind them, they are slower than Foley. They are slower than Stenberg. They're actually even slower than Tim Redmond and Hans Brunswick, who are starting to lock horns. And I saw before Pete Savage had a bit of a scruffy lap about 3 laps ago and dropped behind Brunswick after being passed by Stenberg. So I don't know what happened there. There was a lap time in there at one stage. It was a 1:08. So probably had a little off-track excursion somewhere. But these guys on screen, last times around, Rosella 6.8, Woods 6.9, Devonish 6.8, and Foley 6.4. So half second for Foley. And Devonish just dropped back a little bit here, so maybe needs a bit of clear air. Now back into the 6.7, so 6.4, 6.3, and 6.7 for these guys, and a 6.6 for Foley. So it sort of went back the other way on that lap.
Yeah, I think they're in a position where they feel like they're good on the tyres. They are at lap 16, so they maybe are at the point where they've gone, all right, we've saved for enough time, and I don't know, maybe Woods, maybe the two around also gauging off Woods. He's got experience on running these tyres for a stint length. He might be inadvertently guiding their strategy as well. I think the front two at least got to the point where they realise, all right, we can afford to race now, and we can actually make something of this. Whether it's a smart idea to win the grand picture, I don't know, and we'll see that in towards the end of this race. Will obviously haven't picked up the two in front were 3/10 quicker across that last lap. He's seen that they're pulling away from him, so he's now starting to realise, oh, okay, if these guys can push, I should be able to push. So he's turned the wick on now. And Foley has probably been pushing to maybe at least 9/10 for the past few laps. They're still sitting at that 9/10 push, and that's why he's dropping back, or he's still running the same pace he was the last little while. So he was quicker than them because they were saving, but now that they're not saving, or now that they're not backing it off, he's starting to pull back again. So it was the long time to come across. There was, there
we go. We've got some stoppers. We've got some stoppers here, Rody. So there was an early stop just before for Mishra, and now Brunswick and Stenberger pulled the trigger at lap 16. Oh, and here we go. This is what you spoke about, the sharing of the pit boom. I don't think this was communicated to Hans when you told him that he needed to jump in this car. So there's been a little bit of a few issues here. I think he's going to have to wait his turn, and that's going to hold up car 010.
Yeah, I believe he was ahead, so that's unfortunate. You can technically stack alongside, though obviously in realism that wouldn't work. And like we had a friendly conversation about the games you can play when you share the pits with another team, put it that way. So he knew what he could have done there, but he needed to be in front to have an effect there. I don't think there's been any major contact. It has unfortunately cruelled Hans's race, and I'm not sure what his strategy was. Position we could have gone a lap longer, but if it was, in hindsight, in 2020, he should have done that, because he's lost, I think, a good 20 seconds there that he's without effect.
There we go.
To make back.
Race leaders come in, so Rosella's covering off, so he's gone a lap later than Stenberg, so that puts Redmond through to fourth, and then puts Foley through to third, so he's going long. Devonish has gone deep at turn one, and the car's coming up behind him is that's Lime Mitch, I think, is it? Yeah, it is. So very, very lucky that Lime Mitch has actually gone a lap down, and that's almost an unsafe rejoin there. So Damon Woods now goes through to the lead of this race. Stenberger's come out 17th on a new tyre and in a bit of clear air gap, so he can afford to push on a little bit here and make a bit of time. That's why Rosella's reacted, and why everybody else is starting to react now as well. So if we find out what's going on with Luke Rosella, he has come out in position 10. He's actually just leaving the pits now, so he actually has cleared Stenberg, so that's good from his point of view, and is already into turn one as Damon Woods comes around the final corner, and as the race leader at the moment pit, he does, and Devonish goes with him, but that off-track excursion for Will Devonish might have cost him a little bit there. And Powell Stenberg for time, so he's now moved on the road up to 13th, and he's actually made a net gain on time here, so he's come into the lane, and I think he's chopped that margin to Rosella down to about, I'm just trying to do the math here, it's probably about 6 seconds, so it's a lot closer than what it was when the pit stops phase started going. Now, Devonish is in here. I'm just keeping an eye on what's happening. So you can see Damon Woods is there. Oh, there's a sandwich in the lane. Foley wanted to get out, so again, strategy miscues between the loose SimSport cars.
Well, I've been there before. I had this issue with the CRE cars, I think Adelaide. But no, the two cars were pitting, and he had to go on the inside. I've done that before. But the miscue as well for Damon. Damon would have been clear, but he didn't cue his pit stop before he came in. So he arrived as the team was still in the garage. That was what caused his issue.
Change for the effective lead of the race. Sorry, Roddy. Change for the effective lead of the race as well. So Rosella must have put in a little bit too much fuel, because he's lost track position to Will Devonish here, and Damon Woods is the big loser out of this one. He's actually come out behind Kurt Stenberg, so again, I think even Woods had mentioned in the live chat when he DNF'd from race 1 that he bottled the stop, put too much fuel in. So maybe there was a bit of damage, or again, it's a fuel issue for car 7. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that issue in the pit lane between the loose SimSport cars having a bit of an impact on that one as well. But upshot, the effective leader is now car 15. So that one I didn't see coming, because he was at least about 3 seconds behind Rosella on overall track when he sort of dropped off the back of everything, and he's actually turned that one around and made it work with a very smart in-lap and a very smart out-lap.
Yeah, no, I was saying earlier, from what I can see, I think Damon just didn't cue his pit stop, and that's not unlikely. That was very awkward. Braxton Stancliffe, Will didn't quite clear him as he comes through turn 1, and it's put Will around, which has put Rosella right on the back side of him. I'll make my point on the 7 at the end of the race, because it's not relevant right now. But what is relevant? Luke Rosella, he's right at the back of Will Devonish, and that was, I'm not sure whether that was Will or Braxton that caused that.
Here we go.
Really hurt him.
Down the inside, fairly and squarely goes Luke Rosella. So he's got the overlap here. Needs to do what Kurt Stenberg did to him and wrap around the outside at 7, but he's not going to get it done, or is he? Going to try and hang tough. And Will just muscles him out of room there, but Rosella stays lockstep every step of the way, uses all the curb on the inside at each corner, and will be in position to consolidate through 14 and done. Done all but briefly, though. The next part is you've got to defend.
And he's immediately going to the inside because he knows Will's still in range to have a go. Will's not quite got the pace. I would have able to put in, get a little bit of slipstream, see if that would have made the difference. So he has got the outside line, so he can brake a little later, although he has then got to come around the outside of Luke and not turn in on him, which he's managed to do. They're both giving each other space, a little bit of a wiggle for Will there on exit, but he has somehow got a better run. I don't know, maybe Luke had to get it for a second there. The two wide through here, it's pretty marginal, bit of contact there, but nobody's off the track, and Will has got through.
Will maintains for the moment, so it's taken him a full lap to consolidate after that little mistake with Braxton Stancliffe, which is nearly another disaster. But while they were battling, it's a big free kick to this man, Kurt Stenberg, so he chopped a little bit more out of that advantage. He took 7 and 8 tenths respectively out of the guys in second and first place. So while they fight on, he means business and is making hay while the sun shines in sunny Darwin. And behind him, Damon Woods actually did a 5.7 on the last lap as well. So the men in third and fourth place are starting to get their mojo on. And Brenton Foley, don't count Brenton Foley out, 6 flat, so he's in this as well. Pete Savage was a big loser out of this one as well. So he came in a pretty strong spot overall. And I think there was a very slow pit stop on pit road for car number 58. And he's got Tim Redmond for company. So I don't know, Rody, this is just starting to all just simmer away quite nicely at the moment.
Yeah, they're all that in a position where they're kind of in range of each other, but also kind of aren't. The only battle which we were monitoring earlier was Will and Luke. I don't think that's going to quieten down just yet, although they do also both have timing up. They can both see that Kurt is gaining on every time either of them make a move, so they're juggling that. Pete's just gone wide, actually, the hairpin, which cedes the spot to Tim Redmond there. Yep. But no, they're all about within range, although Pete obviously now probably somewhat more within range of Tim Redmond than he was before, just in the inverse manner. And yeah, if these gaps start to close up, we're looking at some really good racing in the back end of this race.
We definitely are. There's some good racing going on a bit further down the field as well, with a couple of the wildcards and the substitutes boxing on here. So Lockie Lock-in as a wildcard tonight in the Kelly Grove Mustang. 14th place, he was actually nearly inside the top 10 in race 1, so he did a pretty good job there. He's a bit further down the field this time, and he's locking horns with Freakish, and the car belonging to Cheese, which is piloted by Taipan this weekend, is tucked in there as well. So these guys, all Super 2 combatants, all know each other very, very well again, and going along nicely. Behind them as well, I want to pick this up as well, Rody. Brendan Ross had a very early pit stop. I'm not sure why, but I think he's going to have to stop again at some point. I'm not sure if he was caught up in an accident or something happened, but he was a bit further up the order and somehow finds himself down 17th place.
Yeah, I don't want to go wishing for safety cars because they have a double-edged effect and they can create more chaos, but that would bring the top 10 a little bit closer together. The other thing it would do is give Rossi potentially a chance to not only make some spots up, but to take a second pit stop if he needs to take one. And if he's not thinking, like the best chance he's got to not need to pit again would be that he's got his fuel, which he would have been able to do. I think he would have had enough fuel out of potentially. Well, good question actually. I think about 9 fuel you need, but he might not have been had enough fuel space in the car when he pitted. And the other thing as well, the only changes he makes at the end on the tyres is if he's on the hard tyres. Otherwise, you're losing too much time on the soft for it to be worth being on the softs. Try and conserve for an extra 5 or 6 laps worth of tyre life. It's probably the pace the guys are doing in Supercars is probably near impossible to get that much more out of your tyre. So, yeah, at this point, Rossi needs some external influence, I think, to make any more serious gains than he could possibly do by himself.
Needs a bit of that divine intervention, I think, to try and make that one work. He's got a lot of work to do. Lewis Wedding's done a pretty good job. He's driven from 20th to 10th after all the pit stops done. Even with the issues on pit road for the Lucim Sport Mustangs, he has got himself into the top 10. So ahead of Turmo, so they were having a nice little battle for a few laps, and he's now managed to get past and break away and comfortably holding his own here. He's got Hans Brunswick's the next man up the road, but you can see he's up the road to the tune of about 4 seconds. So there he is, and there's Lewis Wedding in the back of shot coming through, and Brunswick honing in on the back of NZ Snipes. So a 6-1 for Brunswick last time around. Snipes with a 6-3, so a little gain for driver 0-1-0. And again, these differing lines that everybody sort of takes through turn 1. It's like turn 1. It's like turn 2 at Phillip Island, Brody, where you've got a couple of different lines. You've got drivers that'll take the line that's tight. They'll come in from a wide line and they'll take the tight line all the way, hug the apex all the way through the corner. There are drivers that sort of take the double apex, so they take the first part of the corner, run the car out to the mid-track, and then pick it up for the second apex, try and straighten the car up a little bit, and then get on the power a little bit earlier, get good drive, a little bit more top-end speed towards the next braking zone.
Yeah, and all that can change for you from where your tyre life is at, where your fuel is at. Obviously, it'll affect the weight and the way the car will behave, and also, you know, where you've got cars around you. And there are some great corners like that, even just within Australian motorsport, where there is no real one defined line that is quickest 100% of the time, and you've got the option to pick a line, and you know, maybe think different things where there's, you know, pace concerns, where the fuel is at, where the tyres are at, and where they need their tyres to be at, and sort of I suppose where the goals are. Snipes probably position he's at, maybe he's just looking more a bit defensively, trying to hold the position, whereas Hans, you know, he was in the top 5 in that last race. He's got the pace to make it there, and and he probably would still be up there if he'd been able to have a better pit stop, because he was more or less around Kurt, who's now 14 seconds up the road on him. So, you know, we could see Hans in the top 5. We could also see Damon Woods further up than he is currently. So a lot of drivers, unfortunate occurrences with their pit stops, have kind of put a what if on some of the results we're seeing at the moment. But yeah, there are a couple of drivers that are pushing hard to make up for mistakes or errors that have come their way.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. And these two have actually settled down and have actually set some pretty respectable times. Would you believe it? Their lap times last time around were identical to the 1,000th of a second, 105.800 for both drivers. They set different sector times throughout the journey, but very, very rare to see them both set the same lap time on the same lap. I've not seen that in ASR at all in the 4 years that ASR has been operating. So that's a hats off driving to these guys, that they've got their heads down and they are pulling a margin to Kurt Stenberg. They are pulling away. Stenberg was 3/10 or 3.5 tenths slower last time around. And even Damon Woods has dropped off the pace a little bit. He was at a 6 flat to Stenberg's 6-1, so his charge towards the rear of Kurt Stenberg has halted a little bit as well. Now, it's important here that if Stenberg stays in 3rd place, that Rosella pulls the trigger on Devonish at some point. Devonish needs the points to try and keep his championship charge alive, which is a bit of trouble, but Rosella could actually make a net gain on Stenberg overall for the round with a win, and Stenberg in 3rd place. It was, of course you saw it was a 1st place win for Stenberg and a 2nd place for Rosella in the last race. If they go 1st and 2nd again, but the other way round, then it'll basically be still the 6-point margin coming into tonight as they leave the night. But I'm sure that Rosella will be definitely eyeing off that 1st place step on the rostrum but he's got, what's this now, 7.5 laps to get the job done. So he'll just be biding his time here, just looking after the tyres, finding out where Will's stronger, where he is stronger than Will, and will probably pull the move. What do you think where do you think the move's going to come? Do you think it's going to come down at turn 1, Rody, or do you think it's going to come somewhere else if it comes?
I still think at this point, with the knowledge and the wider thinking that's on the head of the shoulders of the two drivers in first and second. Well, no.
Here we go. It's coming now.
There, because no, there is a pass coming, and he is going to make a move. He's definitely looking to make a move at turn 1. He's going to need a bit of teamwork, or he's just going to make his own space on the way through.
A little bit of rubbing.
A little too harsh, but he moved him back out the way and kept that door wide open for him to come through.
And here we go. Resent.
Ooh,
there's the resent from Devonish. Immediately retaliates at turn 1. So, sorry, not turn 1, at turn 5. So gets that job done, and now can hold it all the way up to turn 6. Now, this is too early for these guys to be boxing on like Donkey Kong. Stenberg is still going to make a gain over these two the minute they continue to start boxing on. So they were almost identical in the lap times to Stenberg last time around, and they have lost a bit of time in Sector 1 this time. They've lost about 2 or 3 tenths, so they've got to settle down. It was probably not a bad idea to pull the pass card, given there was a little bit of lap traffic involved as well, and it might be a bit easier for one car to get through the lap traffic rather than 2. So you've got Peter Thrower, you've got Cam Rutledge in there as well, so they'll be the ones that get woken up first, and then ahead of them is going to be Steve Warwick in the Blackshaw Smash Repairs car. And all the time, Stenberg closes again, so he made a big gain that time. He actually made nearly a half a second to a 6/10 of a second gain, Stenberg. There he is, back a shot, just starting to come up through 4 at the moment, so he's within striking distance.
All he needs is those cars in front to keep battling, all catch lap traffic. Pete Thrower is a middle ground. He has no lead just one way or the other, so he's going. Pete is a pretty good guy to race around. I don't think he's going to make it too hard for the guys to come past. The next car, and I don't think there's going to be too much to play, but that said, there is some little things you can do as the teammate of someone who is doing well, racing someone who isn't your teammate, to try and have a little bit of a swing on that. And that was a thank you flash there for Will or Thrower for getting out of the way for all the pair of them. The next guy coming up to is Cam Rutledge, and obviously he's one of Will's drivers. So Cam could just be getting himself out of the picture. He could just be letting things go, or maybe there's a bit of communication happening in the CRA chat, and Will's going, look, we're going to catch about this point, Cam. It would be ideal if you were here so that I could use you either as a bit of a break, or if you need to make a pass, if you were incidentally in the way of the 55s or something like that, could happen. But yeah, these guys are racing again, and they're still losing time to Kurt behind. And it's only Kurt behind they're losing time to. The cars behind are still holding position. In terms of the gaps, I think the next one back looking at is probably the battle for 5th. Tim Redmond looking pretty close there on the timing to Foley, with Pete Savage another couple of tenths back.
Here is that train you're just talking about. So Foley has just started drifting rearwards towards these guys. So he was tracking along okay. He wasn't actually that much slower than Damon Woods, but he has sort of gone the wrong way on the timing screen in the last couple of minutes, and now finds himself in a battle to hold on to 5th place, and Kurt Stenberg now picking his way through the traffic on the main straight. So the traffic's actually been pretty kind to Stenberg as well as to the race leaders, so it's not really favouring one or the other at the moment. The lap times again very, very close on that last exchange. Actually the top 4 all within a 10th of each other, so, and as you were, status quo maintained.
Well, all right. Advantage of your teammate being the one
here
you
we
can
go,
dive
yeah.
on.
They're trying to get through they're trying to make their way through the traffic here, and this is the opportunity. Down the inside goes Luke Rosella, and that's the opportunity needed through the lap traffic. He's got his nose ahead now as they run into 7, but
and
again...
they're going to catch Warwick at a bad spot here, I reckon.
Oh, this could be disastrous. Warwick needs to put his foot down. He cannot afford to let slip. They might get lucky here. Will they catch Warwick on the main straight, or is he going to have to bail out somewhere? They're going to get him on the main straight, so this is going to work out okay here. Rosella gets the move done, puts the block on, and Warwick moves out the way. Good, smart driving for Steve Warwick. And now look at this. Smart play by Luke Rosella, who's boxed him in on the main straight. So that is heads-up driving again. using him not as a pick, but as a box. And now Warwick does the right thing. That's smart driving from Steve Warwick. Get out of Dodge and get out of Dodge fast. And that is a very, very crafty bit of driving from Luke Rosella. It's like a wise old head on young shoulders.
That was very cheeky, and that was brilliant situation where Luke, and it was good position to have him because Steve wanted to get out of the way there early, but he couldn't because Will was right behind him and he had nowhere to go. So Steve was stuck there, which meant Will was stuck there, and that was a brilliant move. I don't imagine Will was been too happy with it, but there's not much he could have done there. That was some really good driving from Luke, and now it's much like the first race, except instead of being a white and red car, it's a red and white car all over the back of the 55.
Yeah, dominant colour being red in this occasion instead of white. And Stenberg, if you look a bit further back in the order, he is sort of encountering the same traffic as well. So I think his race might be done here. He's charged towards the top step of the podium, probably has ended here. And then we go back to this lead battle, and it's snakies on the front straight, ladies and gentlemen, left and right. And now Rosella's playing defence yet again, but as you called it last race, Rhodey, he'd rather be playing defence with 2 or 3 laps to go instead of 10.
Yeah, exactly. This is a position that he would have wanted to be in from that first race. Oh, that was a bit messy.
That was a bit ugly climbing over the curbs in turn 1 for Devonish, and that gives a little bit of an air gap to Rosella just for a few seconds, just to break away. They have got a bit of lap traffic coming up in Lockie Lock, who'll know what to do. And it's all a matter, again, of where they catch him and where they pass him.
You kind of see, and it's one of the other traits of Will, that just the desperation just starts to creep into his driving just that little bit. And you can kind of see it with again, that move at turn 1, throwing up over the curbs and very nearly launching off of, I think, Luke's left front wheel. He's only got limited time to have a shot at this, and this is Will's best chance, again, for a win. He's still going to finish ahead of Kurt unless he gets really ambitious in the last lap and makes a bit of a balls up. But he's still got range here on Luke. He's going to have the run through the slipstream. He's going to be able to at least kick back with him down the straight. Luke not moving over a little bit, but not too much. He's just trying to size up where Will's going to go. So he can size up where he's going to go. He's gone to the inside. He can hold it. Will's trying to go a little late, but Luke goes
over and under. Over and under. Smart move. Heads up driving Will Devonish. So Rosella was skated it in on the rear brakes into 1, was out of control, and then came back through and took the race lead on the final tour. So this is on for the race win and 150 championship points in the ASR 2021 Supercars Championship. And Rosella now has got to find a way back through. The race win has slipped just for a few seconds, so it might be 2 second places, but he will want podium position number 1. A bit further behind, Pete Savage had found his way past Foley, so too had Tim Redmond, and Kurt Stenberg is pretty safe in 3rd place. There's one more spot to go, and Rosella's not close enough to do it.
He's not. Kurt's off.
Kurt's gone, so there's an issue here. He's fading down the order. Where is he? There he is. He's had a spin. He's had a spin coming through the...
maybe a tyre's gone.
I'm wondering, he was very early on the stop, so the race win is actually going to go to Will Devonish. Sorry, we've missed that one, so...
No.
Was it Rosella? No!
Rosella.
Rosella's got the win. Okay,
missed
we've missed that as well. So let's have a look at this one on the Smith & Sons replay, because we need to work out what's happened here. So, Devonish down the inside, and...
Devonish is...
What happened? Did he run out of fuel?
He's out of fuel.
He's out of fuel. So the stop on pit road has cost him. Rosella gets the race win. And then the other part of the equation is what happened to Kurt Stenberg. So here it is, all on his own, in the middle of the track, and he just dropped it. That's a disaster for Kurt Stenberg. So he has finished 7th overall. So... that's a real weird one. So maybe on the change of direction, again, as you rightly pointed out, Rhodey, that maybe the tyres let go. It looks, if it let go, it would have been the rear right. Is it a rear right? No, rear left.
Yeah.
Something's let go there, but he looks like he's struggling to get that car back to pit lane. So late drama in the championship. So for Luke Rosella, that will mean that with a late finish there, actually, yeah, it's actually, I think it's the rear. He's gone and done a 360 there. I think that's an inside tyre phase, so that possibly is a rear left that has gone there. That's a bit of a disaster there. So race finishing order, Luke Rosella, Will Devonish, Damon Damon Woods is on the podium. So Damon Woods with a debut podium in the main game. He gets it here, so we'll get to have a chance to chat with the substitute from Evolution Race Team that's filling in for Lou Sim Sports. So well done to Damon Woods. 4th to Tim Redmond, so that's actually a good result for Redmond at the end of the day. He did get a top 5, which is what he was hoping for. Promotes Pete Savage to 5th, Bretton Foley 6th, Stenberg down to 7th, in probably what is one of the worst results for him for the season, aside from the DNF at Adelaide. Then NZ Snipes, so he gets a top 10, so he's very happy with himself down there. Termo to 9th, and Lewis Wedding maintains his pair of top 10, so he gets a good top 10 result as well, ahead of Hans Brunswick, so good job there for Lewis Wedding. But late drama, Rhodey, in the championship, and whoa, I'm just going to try and do the math here and try and work this out, because when we look at how many points you actually get for a 7th place finish, if we pull up the information here, so 7th place finish is 96 points to 150, so that's a hefty thwack. So Rosella gets 138 and 150 for the round, so he's actually the round winner, and then Stenberg gets 150 and 96, so you can work that out. It's about 246 points for Stenberg and about 288 for Luke Rosella. So big swing in the championship towards Luke Rosella. He will be the new championship leader leaving tonight.
Yeah, no, like I lost the capacity for speech right just after that race finished, and I realised what this was, and it would have been so poetically perfect if it was last year when Luke was in a Volvo, because in, I believe, 2014 at Phillip Island, Garth Tander held the lead over Scott McLaughlin in a Volvo coming around the final corner, and then ran out of fuel on the run to the line. And it's so poetic because Will, much like the old guard, one of the Holden faithful, and then here's Luke, the young gun, previously obviously a Volvo driver last year, it would have been perfect, but I don't know what happened there. I don't think Luke knows quite what happened there either. And then also for Kurt, it wasn't going to be a last to first. The tyres just weren't going to make it. But then the tyres really didn't make it from what we can see. In 7th, it's a result, it's points, but it's with Luke in first. I don't know. That was mental.
That was mental. We'll have a points update in a few moments' time. I've got the word Scott Nolan sorting all that stuff out for us, as he always does, which is great to see. But I don't know. I think, Rhodey, this time we might go the other way. We might start with our race winner in Luke Rosella. And Luke, we take a look at what happened in race 1, where you fought tooth and nail for the better part of 10 laps to try and hold on to that race victory. Rhodey called it pretty perfectly. He said you'd rather probably have about 2 or 3 laps to go rather than 10, and he was right, but you probably didn't expect it to end like that.
How fantastic is that? That's unbelievable. Like, seriously, best racing I've ever had in my career. It's just unbelievable. The car was fast. Great respect from both Will and Kurt of the racing. It was unbelievable. And yeah, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. Like, I thought my race was probably done at the end of the, coming towards the final lap. Will saw a gap. I made a bit of a mistake at turn 1, and he went straight through. So I was like, all right, well, my race is probably half done. Tried my hardest to stick with him. I reckon his tyres were gone because he was just sliding everywhere. But coming across the pit straight on the very final lap, he started coughing, and I knew straight away he's out of fuel. This is unbelievable. So yeah, super happy to get the win, but yeah, super unlucky for Will though.
Absolutely, and we were sort of a bit worried, I think, when we called that he'd come out ahead of you on pit road, and thought there must have been some pretty smart pit strategy. Must have timed the fuel load perfectly, or maybe there was something else that had gone on when we'd seen the places swap around. And you managed to wrestle that one back. But for the first half of that race, it was almost like yourself and Damon, the three of you that are sitting here in this commentary box with us right now, nobody really wanted to lead that race or sort of make a move on anybody very early in the race. I guess you were all trying to work out how far you could get those tyres and try and have the better strategy for the second half of the race.
Yeah, Damon was unbelievable. His pace tonight was pretty good. Yeah, I just didn't really want him to get the lead. I sort of knew he was going to run away with it, I reckon, if I let him through. Because it seemed like he could push the tyres more without sort of wearing him too much for him to blow before the magic pit number, which is lap 17, lap 18, lap 19, etc. But yeah, it was pretty unbelievable at first stint. I was just driving to a number while trying to keep Damon and Will behind me. It was just because we didn't really get a full sort of outlook on how the tyre was going to perform at a full stint in the first race because we had that safety car. So yeah, I just concentrated to get that to that magic pit number, and yeah, I overfueled just a little bit. I thought, but well, it certainly sort of made up towards the end because I had enough fuel to get to the end, unlike my competitor. But no, that was amazing. That was unbelievable.
Might have been your saving grace at the end of the day, and you're leaving Hidden Valley tonight as the championship leader. You are 36 points clear of Kurt Stenberg with the late drama. So job well done, and look forward to seeing you at Retro Round in 3 weeks at Calder Park.
Thank you, Nether. Thank you.
Over to second place man Will Devonish for this one. Will, what only could have been, I guess. You had a bit of an up and down night, got caught in an incident that wasn't your own fault in race 1, and that scuppered a big points haul for yourself. But race 2, you're in the thick of the fight, and this one is probably the one that got away. Hello, Wilbur. No, he's gone, and here he is. He's unmuted himself.
Sorry.
Here we go. That's all right. Will, I think this one probably goes down as one of the ones that got away.
Yeah, coming into the pits, I thought I'd short fill and just took that 1 too many litre out of the car. And I wasn't even thinking about fuel for the rest of it. Yeah, and that last lap, unfortunately, was able to make the move back on Luke, but it actually pretty badly burnt the rear tyre, and it was overheating for the rest of the lap, so that's why I was sliding around so much, and that probably used a little bit more fuel than I really wanted to as well. So yeah, it was one that got away, but it was the one, at least we could say we could have gotten it.
Yeah, correct. And I think the positive news I think you probably take out of that one is that's probably one of your better starts that we've seen you execute in that race. It actually went your way for once. And you're able to hang on for a good portion of that first lap and just slip back in the early going, but sort of settled into that groove. And when you emerged out the front with the pit stop, we thought, okay, you've actually had a good strategy call here. And as you said, it just went a little bit pear-shaped for you in the back half of that one. But still some positive signs to take out of that one. Your pace is there. It's just about all putting it all together now.
Yeah, look, we're pretty resigned to the fact that the championship's probably a bit too far away now, so we'll just focus on teams, which we did really well with tonight. Cam getting his best results, so really proud of him there, and Pete getting his best result over 2 races, so pretty proud there as well. So yeah, we'll focus on teams. If we get some wins for the rest of the season, that'd be great, but otherwise we'll just soldier on.
Yep, keep soldiering on, and as they say, Berger keeps on Pete keeping on, and you'll probably do the same, I'd imagine. So look forward to seeing you again 3 weeks from now, and see what you can do.
Thank you.
On to third place man, Damon Woods, on debut as a substitute. You got yourself a race win in Super 2. You spoke the field in GT3s a week ago, and you've done a fantastic job of putting a loose SimSport car on the podium, mate. Well done.
Thank you very much. That was good fun. I was very unlucky for Kurt cutting the tyre with 4 corners to go, I think it was, because I could see him after turn 1 that he lost all speed and he was cruising around the hairpin at the top of the track. And then, yeah, coming out of turn 6 and 7, he just lost the rear and put it in the fence, unluckily. But no, I bottled the pit stop, put too much fuel in and got jumped by Will. I thought I could have probably got past Luke, but unfortunately made the wrong strategy call, and that kind of hurt. But no, it was all good.
Now, on top of that, I know you mentioned you actually bottled your pit stop in race 1 as well, which then didn't end up with a finish for you because you ended up with a game issue that puts you out of commission. We actually thought that there might have been a bit of a strategy miscue when both the Lou Sport Ford Mustangs came to pit lane and you were trying to pit side by side, and that might have been the determining factor in why you had the slow stop. But now it turns out it's a little bit of overfilling again, which is quite common. But it didn't affect your race pace too much. You settled into the groove and you've acclimatised very, very well to life in driving in the ASR series overall.
Yeah, I was just aiming for like 6 deads every lap, and then towards the end of the race, I saw that my tyre wear on the front right was not great, so I backed it off probably about a second, and luckily that was enough just to get it across the line.
Well, you've done a good job on debut as a sub. We'll see you again in 2 weeks' time for Super 2. And actually, we're probably going to see you again in GT3 in a week's time as well. So looking forward to seeing your continuing rise throughout the ASR series.
Thank you very much.
Well, Rody, that's our podium sitters for that one. I usually don't get to do the interviews, so I'm actually quite chuffed to do a couple of interviews for a change. But you can sum this one up. Probably some of the best racing I think we've seen, especially at the front this year.
Yeah, like that first race, like both races, just took the capacity for speech away. Just both in different, both in well, second one I'd have to call it good. Second one was in a way. First one was definitely some monumental racing at the front, and that's sort of the racing that you want to see and the drivers want to be in. And you could hear from Luke, he was still very, very happy with how that went, despite finishing second. And then that second race, I'm still struggling for words to describe that then the second race, because I've been so prepped to call something, and I mean so prepped for Kurt to at least get back to the podium, and that would still keep him in the front, and Will to pick up a win, which he put in the work for, and then for it to go with about 100 meters left of the line, and we've seen fuel issues before. I'm famous for causing one with half the Super 2 grid, but they normally don't come up this late in the race. If you've got a fuel issue, it's only a big enough one that it comes up 5 laps before the end in your pit. Like we see this in like GT3 races. We've had these issues. I think Monza was one we had where it was a fuel race, but for Will to come so close and then fall, then he did still get second, but I don't know. That was some good racing, and if anyone trying to claim the racing is scripted, I challenge you to script that, because I had no idea any of that was coming. That was a good racing, and I'm happy overall. The round that I returned to the commentary box for the first time in 2 and a bit years was this one. This was about all I could ask for.
Yeah, better part of 2.5 years since you've called a race like this with me, and glad you stepped into the box, and glad we gave Hans Brunswick the night off as well, because he did a pretty good job with some good solid points as well. He actually took away 192 points tonight, so out of all the guys that have jumped in as a wildcard or a substitute, he's right up there after round 1. So good job for Brunswick, good haul of points there. Looking at the points, Luke Rosella, we called it just a few moments ago, he leaves Hidden Valley with a 36-point advantage over Kurt Stenberg. It was 6 points advantage Stenberg at the beginning of the night, so that's a 42-point swing across the night for Rosella in his favour, so good job there. Redmond with a good solid haul of points tonight as well. He walks away overall with, I'm just doing the math here, it is 222 points. That's a good one for Richie Benno, if you're a cricket fan, 222. And then Will Devonish now with 1224 overall. So the top 4 in points, Rosella 1554, Stenberg 1518, Redmond 1332, and Will Devonish 1224. Pete Savage actually has moved to within a reasonable striking distance of both Redmond and Devonish as well. He's on 1156, and Termo is the only other driver at the moment to break the 1,000 point barrier. He's got 1,011. Still plenty to play out before the season is over. Join us for GT3 World Series, or World Championship rather, next Saturday night. We head off to the Nürburgring, and then 2 weeks from then, 3 weeks from tonight, it's Retro Round. It's at Calder Park, and if I use the old Avalon Speedway terminology, it's be there. See you next time, everybody. Bye for now.